Hey guys! Today we'll be recapping a manhwa called Surviving as an Illegitimate Princess. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, as it really helps our channel grow. Thanks. Our tale begins on a dark night with the full moon bright against the sky. To our protagonist, this is a familiar scene, one she has lived over and over again. It always starts the same. She wakes as a baby in her mother's embrace, being passed over to the owner of a tavern. The mother promises to return for her child and leaves the owner with a box full of gold and gems, as well as a letter tucked into the side. The baby weeps uncontrollably, knowing that this is the last time she will ever see her mother. While the woman walks away with tears in her eyes, the tavern owner takes the child inside with a big grin on her face, only thinking of the money she just made. As the years go on, the girl is constantly mistreated by her adoptive family, forced to live like Cinderella, doing chores and being yelled at. Her name is Anastasia, and actually, she is nowhere near as young as she looks. Because although she's trapped in the body of a 4-year-old, this is actually her 10th life. Ugh, there are very few things I'd want to do 10 times, and repeating the same tragic life from birth is not one of them. The guy yelling at her is Andy, the son of this household. He likes to bully Anastasia, but as she's done this dance before, she knows all his tricks and how to avoid them. She can put up with just about everything other than insulting her mother. She yells back at him with twice the venom, making Andy furious. But before he can try anything else, a carriage rolls up outside, bearing the flags of the Night Edge. Finally, Anastasia's suffering is coming to an end. A beautiful blonde man in a knight's uniform knocks on the door and walks straight past Andy, asking after the princess. He stops in front of Anastasia and introduces himself as Peon Parciel, head knight of Arita's castle. Anastasia has only found out in this life that this man, a war hero and a noble legend, is her father, despite swearing a vow of chastity to become a holy knight. He turns his cold gaze on the tavern family, telling them that the girl they have abused is Anastasia Antimos, the first princess of the Santra Kingdom. Despite being an illegitimate child, the laws of the kingdom dictate that Anastasia will inherit her mother's title of first princess and claim her right to the throne. The family, after discovering her royal birth, demand child support expenses, but Anastasia tells her father not to give them even 1 gold coin after how they treated her. Now that we've seen Anastasia's history, it's time to learn some of the history of the continent. The continent of Tranquillum has been split into 2 hostile warring factions. 3 years ago, they had a brutal, bloody war in which Santra won, largely due to the efforts of Peon Parciel. However, they lost their first princess, Princess Beatrice. Her will was found some time after her death, explaining the existence of her daughter and where she could be found. The will also protected Peon's identity, claiming that her daughter's father was a mercenary from the enemy nation. Anastasia believed that for 9 lifetimes, but this one, she discovered the truth. Inside one of the gems from her mother, she discovered a video stone that revealed Peon to be her father. She would never have known if she hadn't found it, since Peon has always been cold and distant to her in other lives, and was never able to protect her from the many deaths she has suffered. What a terrible father! The furthest she ever made it was 12 years old. In the past, she has never had a chance to properly make use of her talent for magic, but this time, she is able at least to use the video stone magic to prove her abuse to her father. When Peon hears the insults they made about his former lover, Princess Beatrice, loses it, and throws Andy so hard outside that he knocks over a tree! Damn! I wouldn't want to get on his bad side! Now that she's seen his feelings for his mother were real, Anastasia has more hope for their relationship in this life. Once she's in the carriage, she mentions that she's cold, hoping he might give her a hug to warm up. Flustered, Peon just wraps his cloak around her. Anastasia protests that she's still cold, finally winning a hug from the knight, who uses his divine magic to warm her. Finally, we're getting somewhere! But Anastasia doesn't want to reconnect with her father in this lifetime. He still abandoned her after all. What she really wants is to get close enough to use him and then abandon him just like he did to her. Jeez, that is one evil toddler. She strokes his ego, calling him an angel and thanking him for saving her from the evil family at the tavern. He isn't swayed by her compliments, but is curious as to how a girl her age used projection magic. Usually in the Santra Kingdom, magic only appears around the age of 8. Having such abilities at 4 years old just proves that she is really her mother's daughter. Carrying on her plans to butter him up, Anastasia asks if she can go to the cathedral. Reluctantly, her father agrees, and then she conveniently falls asleep on his lap. Babies do get tired quickly after all. Back at the palace, the other legitimate children of the emperor are furious upon hearing the news of Anastasia's arrival. Emperor Ferdinand isn't exactly happy himself, especially since they believe she's the daughter of an enemy soldier. The second princess, Aquila Enthymos, also points out that acknowledging the child means that she has the right to succeed the throne, in which case, they face having an illegitimate child on the throne of Santra. Fortunately, there was a prophecy just yesterday which will help them decide what to do with her. The Pontifex, Ismail Belus, proclaims that Anastasia will bring light to Santra, which is pretty vague, but it can't possibly be a bad thing, right? Given the prophecy's words, Anastasia is now a child of God, which means they have no choice but to keep her in the royal family, at the very least. Meanwhile, Paon and Anastasia have arrived at the cathedral. He takes her straight to the room of prayer, where the princess requests privacy so that she can pray beneath the god of light, Lux. She tells him that she finally found out who her father is. Although she considered that Paon breaking his oath might be the reason she has infinitely reincarnated, she tells the god that his mistakes aren't her own and begs just once to have the chance to reach adulthood. I mean, that's the least he can do for forcing her through such hardship 10 times over. Then she submerges herself in the holy water beside the statue. The pool is way deeper than she expected, and in her baby body, there's no way Anastasia can swim back to the surface. Just as she thinks she might be drowning, Paon pulls her out of the water. He looks genuinely worried, an expression she has never seen him wear before. She passes out, partly from surprise, and probably also the shock of nearly dying for the 10th time. The cathedral attendants are there in no time and bring her back to health. But Paon's worry doesn't go away, even once he's back in the palace in his own chambers. He stares at his shaking hand, warning himself not to get any closer. Otherwise, his daughter might suffer the same fate as her mother, and he would have to go through all that pain and heartbreak again. Oh, I see. He was only avoiding her all those lifetimes because he couldn't bear the pain. I don't know about you guys, but I still don't think that's a good excuse to avoid being a father. Anastasia finally wakes up in a bed in the cathedral, with only the priest for company. They're already pretty much obsessed with her and introduce themselves as Sierra, a second-class priest, and Rosa and Yusei, both third-class priests. They seem like very nice people, so she thanks them for looking after her. Overcome by her adorableness, the priests get her some soup from the kitchen, watching her savor every mouthful. From her previous lifetimes, she knows not to expect such quality at the palace. The court cooks only served her terrible food in the past. She also has to do her own chores, since the maids assigned to her had no respect and went off and skeeved when it was time to take care of her. The priest tells her what happened when she was pulled from the water, including how terrified the knight Percial was. But Anastasia can't believe someone as cruel as him would be genuinely concerned, so she assumes that he was just afraid of being punished by the emperor. That night, she sleeps in the cathedral, reminding herself to never have any kind of affection for her father. The next day, the priests dress her up in an adorable temple uniform, which means it's finally time to face her family, the royals. When Anastasia sees Paon again, she makes sure to act as sweet as possible, calling him Angel again and running up to him in her cutesy priest uniform. Just like yesterday, he seems uncomfortable, but doesn't give away so much as a hint of emotion. When they arrive at the palace, Paon kneels before the emperor and announces the arrival of Princess Anastasia to his majesty. The princess, however, is so afraid that she's hidden behind her father, trembling with fear. Considering she has died 9 times in the care of these people, it's hardly a surprise. She's also certain that the woman responsible for her 9th death is standing right there, the second Princess Aquila. She sure does look cold. After Beatrice died, it became Aquila's responsibility to manage the palace, which meant that Anastasia was completely at her mercy. She ended up being tied and burnt at the stake after the people accused her of black magic. Remembering all of this, Anastasia is surprised when her father turns around to comfort her, assuming that she's just nervous in front of strangers. When she walks out, everyone immediately recognizes her as the blood of Beatrice. They look practically identical. The third princess, Stella, of course, is still quick to make a comment about her being ugly. Clearly, she doesn't have very good eyesight. No one with eyes could call Anastasia ugly. The emperor asks if she knows who they are, and tells her she is a princess. Anastasia does her best impression of a surprised little girl and quietly mumbles that Lord Lux was right. She tells him that she was visited by the god in a dream. He called her the one who will bring light and told her not to be surprised when he used her, the princess of the royal family. Obviously, that's all a lie, but the great thing about being 4 years old is that no one thinks you're smart enough to make things up. She also says that Lord Lux cares greatly for Parcial, the angelic knight who will protect her. What a bunch of baloney. Hearing that, the emperor tries to make Sir Parcial her official escort, but he refuses, claiming that his duties as a paladin take priority, which kind of makes sense, honestly. He's the holy knight of the kingdom. He's probably got more important things to do than look after some little girl. Aquila soon steps in to offer a royal knight and makes lots of suggestions for Anastasia's care. It kind of seems like everything is going to work out the same way as last time. Even the knight assigned to her is the same as before. His name is Conrad Mikhail, and although he looks like a pro, he just flirts with the maids all day instead of looking after her. Sir Parcial goes to leave, but Anastasia grabs his cloak, begging him not to. He tells her she's in good hands and also asks her to stop calling him Angel since it's disrespectful to the gods. Right, as if breaking your chastity vows and having a child wasn't way more disrespectful. Instead of Angel, she tries calling him Papa, nearly giving the knight a heart attack. He tells her that won't work either and claims it's against the royal law. He suddenly grabs her, warning her that they won't see each other much, since he lives outside the palace and has a lot of dangerous work to do. He tells her never, ever to call him Papa, but his shocked face gives everything away. Anastasia immediately starts crying, very loudly. Conrad steps in and jokes with Sir Parcial that it's surely an honor to be given a nickname by the princess. At that point, he has no choice but to accept. From time to time, she can call him Papa. We can see where this is going already. Early the next morning, the Emperor heads out to pray. He's not been a very religious man in the past, but since his new granddaughter arrived, he seems to have had a change of heart. But when he and his guard enter the chapel, they find Anastasia has already beat them to it. Have you ever seen such a devout child? She tells her grandfather that she heard Lux's voice from somewhere, and after following it, she ended up here. The Emperor immediately notices that her lazy escort is nowhere to be seen, so at least now he knows Conrad is useless. Anastasia says she's praying for forgiveness since she hasn't had the chance to come to church in a year because of her family. Her grandfather reassures her that it's not a sin since she has no control over it. He is stuck by her devout attitude and agrees to her request to stay at the temple in the future. Great! This is another way that religion has helped her avoid the past, by placing her out of reach of her Aunt Aquila. The priests are very excited to hear the news, since they'll be able to see her every day. She quickly becomes a favorite among them, and anytime someone spots the princess, they run to tell the others and describe how adorable she is. Wherever she goes, she is coddled and favored, which is certainly an improvement from her past life. They ask if she's okay eating with everyone else, since it might be overwhelming for a kid her age. But Anastasia knows all the right things to say to make her new guardians melt. And soon she is carried like the princess she is to the temple canteen. Another benefit to living on the temple grounds is the proximity to her father, something she remembers when she spots him across the canteen. Awkwardly, the priestess walks over to Sir Parcial, asking if they can come and have lunch with him. I guess they didn't see the empty spaces beside him. It's pretty obvious Peon likes to dine alone. While sitting on the lap of the second-class priest, Anastasia tucks into a delicious lunch of pancakes. Her father, of course, is just having a simple bowl of soup because he doesn't like sweet things. Obviously. Everyone is deeply uncomfortable except for Anastasia, but she doesn't care. She's just trying to push her agenda of getting Sir Parcial to become her escort. He tries to leave, but since he's barely touched his food, Anastasia tells him he'll be punished by the gods. With an entire canteen of priests watching, he can't walk away after that. Back at the palace, news has already spread of Anastasia's special nickname for the Holy Night. Aquila thinks it's all a plot concocted by Baelus, the head of the church, perhaps in an attempt to bring a more devout presence into the royal family, who currently don't have much respect for religion. Having Anastasia living with the priests gives a huge amount of power to the religious ministers, something that both Stella and Aquila can't stand. Those two will definitely strike back, mark my words. A few days later, the princess is disappointed and moody. After her performance in the canteen, Sir Parcial hasn't showed up to eat with the priests. They try to reassure her that he's just busy, but Anastasia throws a tantrum, claiming that her papa doesn't like her. Poor Sierra is then forced to approach the knight and asks him to dine with the princess, even if it's just once in a while. He's in the middle of refusing when suddenly a guard approaches Sir Parcial, announcing that word has got out about the princess's father. Before, it was just the royal family and a select few of the priests who knew what Beatrice had written in her will. But now everyone is claiming Anastasia is the daughter of a soldier from Kalisa, the enemy state. Oh dear, this is not good news for our princess. Sir Parcial is furious and orders that anyone found discussing the rumor will be punished immediately. He's also worried that Anastasia herself will hear, since no one technically told her there's no way for her to know. Unless she's lived 9 times before, of course. But Anastasia's having the time of her life, exploring places she was never allowed in her past lives, like the temple's library. She overhears a few of the priests discussing her parentage and realizes that Aquila must have planted the rumor on purpose, since it's not supposed to come out for a few years yet. Aquila isn't the type to strike suddenly. In the past, she slowly turned people against Anastasia over years until no one believed she was really a child of God. All her subsequent deaths have been natural, or mistakes that Anastasia made while trying to run away. She doesn't really remember the 9th death, which is hella suspicious, but she does think it happened in the palace. Anyway, all that experience means she needs to accumulate power and money, doing things differently from her past lives. As she's writing up her master plan, 2 of the priestesses suddenly walk in, so she asks them about a book she was reading where the royal family members all had middle names. She doesn't have one, and asks them if it's because her father is a bad person, putting on her best puppy face. That's when Sir Parciel walks in, and she immediately brightens up. Peon reassures the princess that she is of noble blood and that she shouldn't listen to any rumors, and will talk to the officials about getting her a middle name. Well, that was easy. Anastasia climbs up to give him a hug, and although he's still very stiff with her, he does admit that he doesn't hate her. Baby steps, people. Baby steps. Later in the palace, Peon approaches Baelus, who is surprised to see him taking such an interest in the princess. Despite his own reservations, the high priest agrees to arrange a ceremony for bestowing Anastasia's middle name before the end of the year. That should put a stop to the rumors about her birth as well. Baelus also warns the Holy Knight not to intervene in the princess's affairs anymore in case people take it the wrong way. Ooh, does he know the truth? Has he guessed who her real father is? The end of the year festival comes around quicker than expected. It's a day when nobles and the royal family gather to pray. This is the first time the festival has been held since the war, which means it's an extra special occasion. It's also an extra stressful occasion, at least for Anastasia, who hasn't yet been introduced into high society as a member of the royal family. That means she'll have to sit beside her aunts, Stella and Aquila, and pretend she doesn't hate their guts. Aquila is the master of polite sniping. She asks Anastasia what living in the temple is like and gently tells her she'll have to come back to the palace at some point, which is basically me and aunt code for you can't hide forever. The bell rings and soon the nobles begin to arrive, ramping up the pressure for poor Anastasia. She calms down a bit when Sir Parciel appears, looking even more dashing than usual in his finery for the award ceremony. Before they give their prayers, Peon is recognized for his efforts in the war by the Emperor himself. But even though he's a hero and the top knight of the Empire, Anastasia notices that some people in the crowd aren't clapping. The prayers are next, and then Princess Anastasia is brought up to the stage to receive her middle name. Traditionally, the priest put ancient letters in a magical flaming goblet and douse it with holy water. The chip with Elise soot then becomes the royal's middle name. But before they can even toss the chips, the fire is extinguished from the goblet. Of course, everyone takes it to be a sign of bad luck, which is probably what Aquila was hoping for when she set up the magic fueling it. The only thing left to do to squash any future rumors is to relight the fire herself, and it actually works. Everyone is so surprised to see our 4-year-old using advanced magic that they forget all about the ominous extinguishing. With that, the ceremony can go on, so Baelus casts the chips and picks one from the fire. By some stroke of divine luck, it's a good one. Lumiere, which just so happens to mean light, just like the god Lux. Maybe she really is a child of God. But some of the nobles think it's disrespectful to take a name so close to a deity. One of the cabinet members, Duke Orleans, even interrupts the ceremony to reject the ritual. He points out that none of the royals have made an official statement about the princess's father and demands answers. The Duke has them backed into a corner, so Baelus has no choice but to confirm what was written in Beatrice's will, about a Khaleesian mercenary. Even though he says the royal family have accepted the princess regardless, the nobles are in an uproar. Baelus tells them about the prophecy concerning Anastasia, but they remain unconvinced. That's when the Emperor yells back, offended that anyone would insult his granddaughter and her sacred blood. After that, no one dares question her birthright again. Well, that didn't exactly go as she was hoping, but at least she showed Aquila she's not so easy to mess with. A few days later, the priestesses are shocked to hear that Anastasia used magic during the ceremony. They react similarly to Peon, claiming she is just like her mother Beatrice. They're certain that one day she'll grow up to become just as talented and famous as she was. The next day, Anastasia is out for a walk with Priestess Yusei, since everyone else is busy. They visit the royal gardens, which is kept warm even in winter with the use of magic. Delighted at the sight of so many gorgeous flowers, Yusei sends the princess to explore by herself while she preps some tea. She spots a back door that's been left open and almost turns around, but then a sudden energy current draws her curiosity, too strong to ignore. She opens the door to find another garden space and the sound of a spell being cast. Before we can tell what she's seen, her mind is overcome with images of the past, of conflict and disaster, and a boy with violet eyes. I'm sure we'll be seeing him again soon. Anastasia is found shaking on the ground by her usual savior, Sir Parciel. He looks just as concerned as she was when she fell into that pool in the temple. He's so worried he even wants to take her to the palace for a checkup, but Anastasia assures him she's perfectly healthy. Yusei comes running in to find the princess in her favorite knight's arms, grinning and waving as if nothing ever happened. Parciel tries to slip away, but Yusei encourages him to stay and have a cup of tea since he's here already. He has no choice but to agree, especially with his daughter staring into his soul like that. While Anastasia was off seeing visions of destruction, Yusei received some cream buns which were sent by the palace. It's a sweet gesture, but of course, that immediately makes Anastasia worried that they might be poisoned. She calms herself down by reasoning that someone as smart as Aquila wouldn't act so sloppily, which is probably true. She digs into the pastry, enjoying a cup of hot cocoa and a rare moment of peace with her father and guardian. She feels safer every time he appears, which gives her an idea. If she can't convince him to be her knight, then she'll have to just follow him around all the time to guarantee his protection. With that in mind, she asks if she can follow him to the training grounds. Parciel immediately refuses, and Anastasia turns to Yusei for backup. They make a pretty good team, too. Yusei starts whining that she has somewhere else to be, saying how grateful she would be if he could just look after the princess for an hour or two. At this point, they should really rename this series How to Blackmail Your Guilty Father. Reluctantly, Sir Parciel carries her to the training grounds where two knights are in the middle of a sparring match. The girl with purple hair wins, but is soon distracted when she notices Anastasia. Apparently, rumor of her magical abilities has already spread, making her quite popular, at least with the deputy captain Selman Pyart anyway. She's the strongest female knight in the history of the continent, which is pretty obvious when you see the state she left her opponent in. The other knights soon rush over to admire the princess, who gets passed off to the defeated knight Regan for a tour. Anastasia remembers him from a past life as Regan Tigress, a famously fast knight with excellent horse riding ability and magical prowess. He might not look like much now, but he's supposed to grow into Pion's best apprentice. Although at the moment he looks a little too scared and shy to be a famous warrior. Regan catches her staring, so she tells him how cool he appears to her, being so young and already a knight of Aritas. You see, Knights of Aritas are special because they use divine power when they fight, like Pion. Divine power is similar to magic, but only a select few are able to use it, and unlike magic, it's not inherited by bloodline. That means anyone has a chance to get them, and if they do, they can become a priest or holy knight and be favored by Lux. Regan, however, admits that he can't use any divine power. This comes as a shock to Anastasia, who definitely remembers a man with this name from her past life. Regan says he was only brought into the Knight's Corps by Pion, who saved his life after his village was rampaged by magical beasts in the war. Pion took down all the beasts in a matter of moments and even saved his mother's life. He took Regan with him, probably because he saw his potential, but he hasn't been able to use any of it since he arrived. Anastasia decides to help him out, taking him into the woods to practice drawing out his divine power. Since the principles of divine and magical powers are very similar, she can be of some use even though she doesn't have divine powers. Magic comes from mana, and divine power comes from prana. It's not that Regan doesn't have prana, it's that he doesn't know how to access it, and that's just a confidence issue. Anastasia tells him to try and believe in himself, but when he tries using his power on a shrub, it does nothing. The sweet princess wants to make him believe, so she tries to convince him that one of the leaves looks a bit fresher. Regan isn't an idiot. He can see what she's trying to do. Although he thanks her for her help, he pats her on the head and tells her she doesn't need to try so hard. From now on, he'll be more confident. And then he realizes he just patted the head of a royal princess and freaks out. But Anastasia kind of liked it. It's not like anyone in her real family's that friendly. From then on, he tells her to treat him like an older brother and lets her call him by his first name. Then, out of nowhere, a red-headed boy appears and ruins their touching moment by picking on Regan. When he finds out that the little girl beside him is the princess, he doesn't apologize. Actually, he just looks intrigued. Anyone else get the sense that this kid is bad news? With half-hearted manners, he introduces himself as the eldest son of Count Eleanor, Ark Eleanor. His uniform marks him out as an apprentice of Danitas, a counterpart to Veritas, who both use magic and aura to fight. Ark and Regan soon get into a fight after Ark makes some comments about his low background and lack of powers. And if that wasn't rude enough, he then has the arrogance to talk about Sir Parciel, claiming that the Holy Knight himself also comes from a common background. I don't know if that's true, but either way, it infuriates Regan, who is unable to tolerate any slander about his commander. But Ark isn't afraid of a fight. Actually, he's pretty much asking for one. Anastasia knows that if they draw swords, it will be Regan who gets punished. So she drops to the ground and casts a spell to make the earth tremble. A cascade of pine cones suddenly drop on Ark, landing him on his arrogant little butt. Well, that's what a noble worm like him deserves. Anastasia reminds him that Danitas comes from the word for honor, and he just proved that he has none by disrespecting a fellow knight. I guess being told off by a 4-year-old really does the job because he runs off without another word. The princess also scolds Regan as well. I mean, he can't just whip his sword out at every provocation. Back at the Eleanor mansion, Ark is trying to figure out how he got beaten so badly by a little girl. And worse than that, how a girl her age can use such powerful magic. He is then summoned by his father, Count Eleanor, who asks about his training. There's a special technique he's expecting his son to learn called Flamma Gladius, or Flame Sword. It's a special skill of the Eleanor family, but so far, Ark can't summon it. His father is very impatient and yells at Ark. The Count is twice as arrogant as his son. He really doesn't like how common people like Peon and the princess are taking over the temple and the palace. He wants the same level of respect and power for his family, and he's pushing his son to achieve it. Which is kind of pathetic if you think about it. If he wants something done for his family, shouldn't he be the one to do it and not a 10-year-old boy? Anyway, back at the temple, Anastasia is delighted with her magical progress. From now on, she hopes to train at the same grounds as the knight so that she can improve and be closer to her father. As she's remembering the encounter with the stuck-up Eleanor brat, she has a sudden flashback to a past life. She once heard the maids mention his name, Ark Eleanor, who was engaged to Princess Stella, ended up dead after fighting magical beasts. And that day was only 3 years from now. Uh-oh, Mr. Rich Kid had better improve soon, or he'll be in mortal peril. Of course, when Anastasia asks Peon if she can visit the training grounds more frequently, he refuses. But we know how this goes. Some puppy eyes, a few tears, and soon Anastasia is being personally escorted to the ground by Sir Parciel himself. Seriously, this guy is such a pushover. Regan is waiting for her with a dragon kite when she arrives, all the more impressive considering he made it himself. A short while later, Anastasia is running off into the distance, having the time of her life with the kite. It reminds her of Parciel's magic, which takes the form of the dragon on the battlefield. She jokes about asking him to demonstrate it for them, nearly giving poor Regan a heart attack. He may be terrified of his commander, but Anastasia sure as heck isn't. On their way back to the training grounds, they run into Ark Eleanor practicing in the woods. Despite her best efforts, the princess can't help but feel a little guilty when she thinks about his death. But if he does survive to marry Stella, it will only make things harder for her. Plus, how would she even help? Telling him he's going to die in 3 years isn't exactly constructive, and it will probably just freak him out. Even knowing all of that, she still stops to give him some advice. She offers to help him learn the basic elements of magic involved in his family's flame-wielding skill, which he is clearly lacking. But as you were probably expecting, he tells her to buzz off, too proud to accept help from a child. They're walking away when he actually manages to summon flame for the first time. The only problem is, now he can't control it. Alerted by the sound of him yelling, Anastasia sends Regan to go get help while she tries a water spell to put it out. But it's not enough. Only divine powers could stop a magical fire like that. Ark tells her to run as his flames spiral out of control. But just when it all seems unsalvageable, Regan returns, gripping the sword and using his divine powers to smother the flames. He did it! He believed in himself! Well, either that or the stress of nearly burning to a crisp made him forget about his doubt. But the point is, he did it! They only have a moment to celebrate before the knights arrive with Sir Parciel, and boy does he look mad. Even Anastasia is afraid. He heals Ark's hands first, which are burnt from holding the sword. He scolds the boy, reminding him that the highest level of magic should only be performed with a superior present. Normally, this would be enough to expel him. The decision falls to the lead commander of the Danitas Knights, the very evil-looking Edwin Alter. Alter tries to turn things against the princess of all people, offering Ark the chance to blame Anastasia for egging him on to show her the skill, which is just preposterous. Luckily, Ark doesn't take the bait. He admits the truth, that this was all his fault, and actually, Anastasia tried to save him. Well, that was unexpectedly noble, but now he really is going to be expelled. So Anastasia intervenes as usual. She says Ark is lying, that she begged him to show her the special skill, so it's all her fault. After that, Ark isn't expelled, but the princess is temporarily banned from the training grounds. But worse than any of that was Peon's face when she lied. For a few days following the incident, she wallows in her misery, worried that her father has finally got sick of her. To cheer her up, Regan and Ark, the unlikely duo, visit the temple to offer Anastasia flowers. Actually, he sort of shoves them in her face, pledging his loyalty to the princess rather clumsily. It's still pretty cute, though. He thanks her for saving his position with the knights. Sensing an opportunity, Anastasia asks him to swear an oath of allegiance to her, something that knights only do for the Emperor. But since he's so grateful, Ark gets on his knees and does it anyway. And then Regan gets on his knees too, even though he's only supposed to be sworn to God. Anastasia accepts them both, knighting them with one of the roses from the bouquet. She's just finished their informal ceremony when Yusei announces that the princess has been summoned by the Emperor. Uh-oh, he must have heard about the flame sword incident. Actually, he's just invited her for a mini feast. Her grandfather tells her to eat up, but it's a little uncomfortable when her evil aunts are right across the table. Literally seconds after she arrives, Stella makes a comment about Anastasia's face getting fatter after all the temple food. She's a 4-year-old girl. Her face is supposed to be a little pudgy. Conversation soon turns to the political problems of the country, one of which is a group of slave hunters who have kidnapped a load of war orphans and are still evading capture. They're one of the reasons Anastasia didn't try to run away as soon as she got to the palace. She was caught and killed by those hunters in her 5th life. The Emperor then asks about her little trip to the training grounds. Anastasia tries to explain that she just wanted to practice her magic, which her grandfather finds very impressive, despite Stella's rude suggestion that she was annoying the knights. He asks if she would like to start learning magic formally with Prince Loctania, Dean of the Magical Academy. Stella and Aquila quickly interrupt, saying that the princess should first learn manners and the Bible before she learns magic. I don't know who invented such a stupid rule, but it doesn't matter since Anastasia has had enough time to memorize the Bible by now. Aquila puts her to the test, but she passes with flying colors. There have to be some perks to being reincarnated after all. Her grandfather is really impressed. Even her mother didn't manage to memorize the Bible until she was number 1 in Neritas, the Royal Wizarding Corps. This is news to Anastasia. Now she knows just how good her genes are. Born of the head of Veritas and Neritas has got to have given her some special potential. After lunch with her family, Sir Parciel arrives to take her back to the temple. She thinks he's still mad at her, but Pion immediately picks her up and takes her in his arms, proving that he really has softened up in the last few weeks. Actually, he meant to put her in the carriage, but I guess it's just habit at this point. It's getting harder and harder to believe that Sir Parciel doesn't care for her. But it doesn't make sense. If he's really become attached this quickly, then why was he so indifferent in her past lives? On a whim, Anastasia asks him about her mother to gauge his reaction. Sir Parciel is surprised, and then quickly becomes quite sad. He mentions how he and Beatrice used to fight monsters together, so they must have spent a lot of time together. Then the princess asks about how her mother passed away, which is kind of a heavy topic for a child to bring up. With his usual dramatic flair, Peon says Beatrice died because she was cursed by the king of Kalisa, otherwise known as the Demon King. Around the time of her death, Beatrice's magic wasn't very stable, probably because she'd just given birth. He seems angry when he talks about it, so Anastasia doesn't push anymore. But he really made it seem like the reason the princess couldn't defend herself was because she was weakened by childbirth. Does that mean it's Anastasia's fault? Just the idea of it makes Anastasia so sad that she hides away in bed all evening. She's certain that's why her father has avoided her with such hatred all these years, because he blames her for her mother's death. The next morning, Anastasia's face is puffy from crying all night. Ark comes to visit her before his morning training, so she asks him to escort her to the Imperial Palace. Her first magic class starts today. Ark enthusiastically agrees. They run into his future fiancée Stella in the hallway, since she and Anastasia are going to be studying together. I'm sure that will cause plenty of chaos as the lessons go on. Their teacher is Ruslan Loctania, Dean of the Royal Academy of Magic. He has already heard stories of the new princess's talents and seems excited to teach a genius like her. He runs through the basic elements of magic, including 2 black magic skills that are forbidden in Santra. Seeing the word curse on the board reminds Anastasia of her mother. The royal family of Kalisa actively use black magic to oppress their people, unlike in Santra, where any information on black magic is strictly outlawed. Even so, in one of her past lives, Anastasia was put to death for possessing materials on the subject, and no one even questioned how a child managed to get her hands on contraband material. Seems stupid if you ask me. After her first day of lessons is over, Anastasia summons her 2 trainee knights to bestow on them a very important task, escorting her to the Sprout Festival. Wait, what? The Sprout Festival takes place once a year in early spring, attracting lots of people to a square near the royal palace. They don't ask permission from the emperor because Anastasia doesn't want to be surrounded by guards the whole day. Partly, this is so that she can have a real experience, but also allow her to meet the foreign merchants who gather at the festival. But that requires them to be very sneaky and take a carriage out the back of the temple entrance. They manage it pretty easily and soon arrive in town. Anastasia's attention is captured by a circus troupe enjoying act after act on Regan's shoulders. Ark gives him a gold coin on the princess's behalf as thanks for putting on such a good show. People start to notice her very unique hair color, so they visit a costume shop to buy her a bonnet and some more common clothes. She's much more relaxed in disguise. Now the three of them can enjoy the market stalls in peace. They're having so much fun that Anastasia forgets about the foreign merchants for a while. When she suggests they venture over there, Ark seems suspicious. Foreigners aren't exactly well respected in Santra since the war, so the atmosphere feels a little different. But Anastasia will have to put up with it, knowing that an infectious disease will spread across the mainland in 3 years. She has come to purchase the cure, an herb that only grows in desert countries like Kalisa. It became a big problem in her past life, so Anastasia is hoping to stock up early and save as many lives as she can. Eventually, she stumbles upon the herb she's looking for in a merchant's tent. The shop owner notices their interest and offers 10 gold coins, a very high price that she's only willing to discount because Anastasia is cute. The boys try and convince her to leave, but the princess complains that it's her favorite flower, and she wants 10. In the end, Ark is forced to give in and spend his precious pocket money. I just hope the princess remembers to pay him back. Anastasia is delighted to have completed her mission and walks back to the festival with a big smile on her face. A smile that vanishes the moment she lays eyes on Sir Parciel in the middle of the square. Uh-oh, busted. Considering he's the Holy Knight and all, it's no surprise that he's popular with the commoners. But despite the crowds quickly forming around him, Pan still manages to make eye contact with the boys, causing them to quake with fear. Anastasia is already hiding. She knows her father too well to risk hanging around. So when Sir Parciel approaches the boys, he doesn't realize his daughter is also nearby. Of course, that doesn't mean he's not suspicious. He asks what the two of them are doing at the festival, so they make up an excuse about taking the day off to enjoy the festivities. Luckily, Pan takes the bait and leaves them be to continue marshalling the square. Anastasia has had enough of fright for one day and decides to return to the dress shop to get her clothes back. In high time they went home, since they've already got what they came for. As they're preparing to leave, a young girl with scarlet eyes walks up to the trio, asking them to buy a flower. She's visibly malnourished. The sight strikes a chord with Anastasia, who once sold flowers in her past life to buy bread. Regan also pities the girl and offers to buy the whole basket. For some reason, she gets upset and runs off without taking his payment. She doesn't get very far before falling over. The trio start picking up her flowers, but the girl yells not to touch them. The next second, the boys have fallen to the ground. Anastasia can feel it too. There's some kind of magical trace on the flowers that makes them fall asleep. Poor Pan would probably be freaking out if he knew, and as usual, he does have a sense that something is off. He just can't figure out what it is. Just then, a knight runs up to tell him that the temple have reported Anastasia missing. Well, mystery solved, guys. I think you know what that bad feeling was now. The kids have been taken to a sketchy warehouse by a group of criminals who turn out to be the same kidnappers who caught Anastasia in her previous life. The good news is they didn't take her seeds because they don't seem valuable. The bad news is they're planning to take them abroad to sell them as slaves. The flower girl is there too. It's obvious she was forced to capture them to earn her keep with this gang. She's so guilty that she started to cry. Anastasia rolls over and tells her to save her tears. It's time to get out of here. Back in town, Sir Parciel has found Anastasia's bonnet and knows she's in trouble. Holding it tight in his fists, he starts to use his divine powers, not caring that people can see or that he might accidentally hurt someone. You see? His affection for Anastasia is finally winning out. He just can't stand the idea of her in danger. But his daughter is more than capable of escaping on her own. She awakened from the spell all by herself using magic, and now she's explaining the truth of her identity to the flower girl. Having gained her trust, the girl reveals that they're in a liquor store just outside the capital. It looks ordinary from the outside, and there are lots of people guarding the door, so the chances that they'll be able to walk out are very slim. Everyone who has tried before was killed, including her brother. Of course, Anastasia and her bodyguards aren't just anyone. Between the three of them, they have divine and magical powers, so they stand a much better chance than those who came before them. Against her better judgment, the flower girl agrees to trust the princess and demonstrates her own exceptional abilities by releasing the boys from her spell. Ark and Regan have a brief moment of panic before their mistress explains the plan. They agree to follow her without hesitation, but honestly, I wonder if this is one of those cases where loyalty equals stupidity. Like, would you try and break out of a warehouse guarded by thugs if you were a toddler? No, me neither. The first step is to make a ruckus, bringing one of the guards in from outside. The moment he's through the door, Ark knocks him out, and a second later, Anastasia has used her magic to start a fire in the main hall. While the thugs are distracted, they make their escape, but they haven't gone unnoticed. Ark defends from the back, cutting down one of the men who chases them with his aura and swordsmanship. They make it out of the building, but by now, the thugs have turned all their attention on the escaping kids, since they're worth a lot more money than their cargo. And even worse, one of their men can use aura too. Anastasia's magical energy is all used up from summoning the fire, so their only option now is to run. As they're fleeing the scene, the princess spots a pure white dragon flying overhead, aiming right at the warehouse. I'll give you 3 guesses as to who that might be. That's right, it's Paon. For the first time in all her lives, he's come to save his daughter. He also looks more stressed than ever before. I think Anastasia is going to have to lighten up on all the adventures. Her father's going to have a stroke if she keeps this up. The first thing he asks is if she's hurt. She shakes her head, much to the relief of Sir Parcial. When the thugs realize the commander of the Holy Knights has arrived, they scram. Pan leaves her with Ark and Regan for protection while he hunts down the lowlives who dare to kidnap his daughter. Since this is a group they've been struggling to capture for some time now, he is eager for answers. He asks the guy in charge for the name of his boss, but the thug won't give anything away. He just keeps spouting stuff about the nobles and how much he hates the god of light. Right, what a clever thing to say to the literal paladin of the Holy Temple. Sir Parcial grabs him by the collar and ends his life, swiftly and without mercy. He proceeds to finish off the entire gang by himself, and even though there's blood dripping from his gloves, Anastasia isn't afraid to run up to him. But now that the danger has passed, anger has set in. Ironically, her father asks if she has multiple lives. Otherwise, why would she do something so reckless? Funny you mention that, actually, Sir Paon. Tears start welling in her eyes. Right on cue, her father drops to his knees and apologizes. She takes his bloody glove in her hand, worried about his wounds. Did anyone else not realize that was actually his blood? 'Cause me too. Anyway, she ended up healing him herself, much to the shock of her father. Without even realizing what she was doing, Anastasia used divine powers. How crazy is that? No, seriously, it is crazy, because divine and magical powers are opposite. You get one or the other, not both. For a person to be able to use both and at such a young age is truly incredible, and clearly very tiring. Anastasia passes out from exhaustion soon after that. In all her past lives, there was never anyone there to hold Anastasia's hand when she wasn't feeling well. So when she wakes up with her father asleep beside her bed, she realizes that this is more precious than all the money and power she has always coveted. Their precious moment ends abruptly when Anastasia softly calls out to him, and he wakes up with a start. Sir Parcial is really such a drama queen. The priestesses rush over soon after, revealing that she's been asleep for 3 whole days. Everyone was so worried. I mean, she did use her divine powers at the age of 4. I'm not surprised she was out for so long. It all suddenly comes back to Anastasia, whose whole body begins to burn. Whoa, what's going on? Is this what happens when you inherit divine powers? Sir Parcial takes her hand and begs her to withstand the pain, passing on some of his healing powers to her. Once the pain has subsided a little, she asks him to explain whatever the heck is going on with her tiny little body. Paon explains that her inner divine powers and magical powers have collided, forcing her body to fall sick. The only reason she's not in agony right now is because he's suppressing her magical powers with his divinity. In fact, he's been doing that for 3 days straight to allow her to sleep in peace. Obviously, this can't go on forever. Eventually, there's a way that Anastasia will be able to use both powers if she lets the forces slowly accept one another. The only problem is that everyone who's ever tried ended up dead. Great. Paon assures her that he won't let that happen, but there is another danger with inheriting both powers. If the Emperor finds out, he might imprison her in the Tower of Nihilum, a kind of vacuum where prana and mana are completely blocked. No one knows where it is, and it's mainly used for prisoners of war. But if she's not able to control her inner forces, that could be the fate awaiting for our little princess. To buy them some time, Paon visits the Emperor with Anastasia slung over his shoulders, claiming that she's still suffering the after effects of the kidnapping, which is technically true. In order to keep her secret, he has to abandon his post for some time and make caring for Anastasia his primary duty. The Emperor agrees, but Sir Alter and Count Eleanor seem frustrated. Later that evening, Sir Alter meets Aquila in private to discuss a plot that could shake the entire empire. It's all a bit mysterious, but what we can tell is that he wants Aquila on the throne, and he's willing to marry her to make it happen. This would cause quite the scandal among the nobles, since Sir Alter was actually engaged to Princess Beatrice before she died. A creep like him? No way! But if they got married, Anastasia would be passed on to them as an adopted child. And if that happened, they could separate her from the temple and eliminate her right to the throne. Unaware of this latest scheme being brewed behind her back, Anastasia is still resting in the temple where the priestesses are taking turns with Pan to suppress her magic powers. It takes a lot of effort. While Pan does it for days on end, the High Priestess is only able to do so for a few hours at a time. It just goes to show how much the Paladin cares for his daughter. He's even helping her practice adjusting to her divine powers by releasing her magical powers bit by bit. It sounds painful, but he reassures her that she is the daughter of Princess Beatrice, so she can do it. They start with a few short bursts of pain, but Anastasia faints before they can get to 5. While nursing her in bed, Pan has a sudden outburst, asking the Lord Lux why he has to punish his daughter for his own sins. Now we see his true colors. He's not a cold and stony man like Anastasia thought he was. He's just heartbroken from losing the love of his life and now watching their daughter suffer. He was trying to stay away from Anastasia so that the gods wouldn't punish her the way they did Beatrice. Now, seeing her like this, he desperately prays not to have both of the girls in his life taken away from him. In the end, under Pan's care and rigorous training, Anastasia survives. Soon, she is up and about again, and in good enough spirits to drag her dad from the literal bathtub to show him a divine beast that she summoned. Well, it's a divine something. I don't know if you could call that pudgy little thing a beast. She just read a book about it and then practiced what she learned. Pan is flustered, both by her insane talent and also the adorable beast in front of his face. He suddenly squashes it between his palms and tells her not to summon divine beasts so recklessly, since they will drain a lot of power. But Anastasia isn't listening. For once, she's acting like a real 4-year-old, having a tantrum on the floor because he killed her cute incarnation. He reassures her that she can call it anytime she wants, and suddenly, she looks up smiling. Damn, she got him good! Literally any sign of tears, and this guy always gets on his knees. It's like magic. I guess they've gotten closer too in all the weeks they've spent together. After all, Anastasia still needs her father's divine power regularly, or else she's overcome by crippling pain. The priestesses knock on the door, so he scurries away to put on literally anything other than a bathrobe. They brought a strawberry cake for all her hard work training. They share it between the 3 of them while she tells the priestesses about her divine beast. Divine beasts are supposed to represent the ones who summon them, so it's kind of sweet that hers was chubby and small with white fluffy fur. She wants it to be a dragon, but Parciel immediately squashes that dream by reminding her that dragons have no fur. Right. Thanks for the buzzkill, Dad. Yusei suggests reporting her divine powers to the Emperor, but Parciel and Anastasia both refuse. Until she can control herself, it would be dangerous to bring her back to the palace, not only because of the pain, but also because it might make her a target. And we know Aquila doesn't need another reason to persecute her niece. She's not supposed to be visited by anyone from the outside, but when Ark comes knocking, Anastasia opens the door at once and finds Sir Alter standing with him. Oops. Sir Parciel puts himself between the knight and his daughter immediately, reminding him that the princess is afraid of outsiders. But Alter finds this funny, since he might really become Anastasia's father. He hands him an invitation for the wedding of Sir Alter and Princess Aquila, leaving the pair completely shell-shocked. I can't believe it. He really made it happen! In all her previous 9 lives, Aquila and Sir Alter never once got married. Even Parciel seems shocked. He suddenly becomes furious, reminding the knight that he was once engaged to Princess Beatrice. Which is a good point. Isn't it a little disrespectful to marry your dead fiancé's sister? Of course, Sir Alter doesn't see the problem, since Beatrice ended up having an illegitimate child anyway. He doesn't care to explain himself, so the knight turns to leave. Anastasia asks Ark about the girl they ran away with, and Alter announces she's been locked up in the dungeons. That little thing? But she's only a child! Alter has deemed her a threat since she has demonstrated that she can use forbidden magic. By law, that in itself has earned her a life sentence. What is with this empire? That is such a messed up law! Sir Alter says he'll try to get the little girl out, but only if Anastasia agrees to become his adopted child once he's married to Aquila. Uh-oh. That seems like a really bad idea. For the time being, Anastasia doesn't answer. At that point, we see a flashback from Parciel's past. He was inducted to the Veritas at a very young age from a lowly background. Before becoming a knight, he was a gladiator slave, so a lot of people looked down on him, including Sir Alter. He wanted to teach him a lesson from the start, but even as a child, Parciel was too skilled for him to beat, and he only got better as he grew. Eventually, the Emperor was taking his suggestions in battle over altars, even though he was his junior. Veritas was originally focused on defense and healing, so usually battle strategies came down to Demetrius, who would be protected by Veritas. But with Parciel at the head of their order, everything changed. Alter has always wanted to take him down a peg, but he could never find his weakness. That is, until Anastasia arrived. It became clear from the moment she appeared that Parciel would abandon his duties and use respectful manner if Anastasia was involved. So of course, a villain like Alter just had to find a way to toy with her. I mean, you have to give him credit. Sacrificing your own marriage just for the sake of revenge is pretty hardcore. After meeting with that evil knight, both father and daughter seem a little depressed. When Alter asked Anastasia about becoming her father, she responded negatively. Of course, that didn't put him off. He just promised to work harder to get on her good side. Yeah, like that could ever happen. If Anastasia becomes their daughter, she will have to return to the palace. It's not good news for her, but it seems to be hitting Parciel even harder. Determined not to give up, Anastasia starts thinking of solutions. Now that she knows she's basically a child of God, she has a few more tricks up her sleeve. So now might be the time to pull out the big guns. Meanwhile, the Emperor is interrogating Aquila, asking if she really wants to marry Sir Alter. She spins some ridiculous tale about him comforting her after Beatrice's death, talking about how gentle and friendly he is. The Emperor is stunned, probably because he's never heard anyone describe Alter as gentle before. But really, this is a good thing for the imperial family since he's from such a prestigious noble house. So really, he can't complain. However, he does tell Aquila straight up that Alter doesn't love her. Ouch! But it's not like she didn't know that already. Aquila points out that he didn't love Beatrice either, and yet he still let them get engaged. She also accuses him of being in a loveless marriage himself with Aquila's mother. The Emperor tries to deny it, but she won't accept it. The only person he truly loved was Beatrice, so now it makes sense that he's trying to protect the daughter who looks just like her. The Emperor also denies this. It's not because she looks like Beatrice. He's just following God's will. In any case, Aquila tells him there's no need to be concerned about her marriage. A few days later, back at the temple, Anastasia and her father are all dressed up for the engagement ceremony. She spots a letter on Parciel's desk, which makes her a little curious. Who does he have to write to anyway? Her father is a little apprehensive about the engagement ceremony. He doesn't know how Anastasia will be in a crowded place, but she assures him she's fine. Nowadays, she can stand up to 30 minutes without Parciel's divine power, so it should be okay. Even if it isn't, this couple might become her parents soon, so really, she doesn't have much choice but to attend. While Anastasia bravely moves on, her father is having thoughts about kidnapping her and just running away. Anything would be better than losing her to Sir Alter. Shaking those thoughts out of his head, he clenches his fists. He sees this as a kind of test from God to repent for his past sins by letting her go and stepping back. And as soon as she's old enough and recovered, he plans to resign from his position and leave imperial life altogether. A+ parenting, everybody. Stay out of the way and eventually just leave. Really, this guy never ceases to amaze me. The guests at the palace are surprised to see the elusive Sir Parciel attending an imperial event for once. Of course, he's very popular with the ladies, though some can't forget his humble beginnings. One lady who is particularly unimpressed is Lady Alter, Sir Alter's mother. She's also not exactly happy about her son's impending marriage, mainly because she doesn't like the idea of him taking on Anastasia, another man's daughter. Finally, the Emperor arrives and the gossip pauses. Aquila and Sir Alter enter right behind him, arm in arm, while the adoring crowd looks on in wonder. They sure are an attractive couple. It's just a shame they're both so evil. Even now, Aquila is looking down at Anastasia with a smug smile. But she hasn't won yet. Anastasia has a plan after all. She intends to target two dull-looking noblemen once the ceremony is over. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to help, but for now, everyone is distracted by the banquet. This is the first chance the nobles have had to celebrate since the end of the war, so everyone is excited to dance and size each other up. Of course, Parciel is hogging a significant portion of the spotlight thanks to his good looks. But he's not interested in socializing. In fact, he sees this as an act of duty and asks Anastasia if she wants to go home the second the ritual has finished. Just then, a rather attractive young lady appears and asks him to dance. Parciel may be hot, but he's far too awkward to speak to women. So Anastasia gives him a kick and forces him to accept. That will give her time to sneak off and approach her targets. The two old guys are actually complaining about the marriage between Sir Alter and Aquila. Looks like they're on her side already. They suddenly stop when they notice Princess Anastasia running full sprint towards them, which is a little alarming. You see, these men are from the Rosellis family, a Marquise family who are not-so-secret rivals of the Alters. Before the war, the two families were of equal status, but now they're worried about Sir Alter gaining the power of the imperial family. So it seems they and Anastasia have a common enemy. The only problem is she doesn't know how to approach the subject in a public place like this. Instead, she compliments his mustache. The Marquise men are a little confused, but an opportunity with the princess is a political advantage for them. The mustachioed man is already falling for her cuteness. At her request, he picks her up and carries her to the bathroom, at which point she whispers to take her to the balcony instead. At first, the Marquise can't quite believe that a girl as young as her can both pronounce his name and ask to make a deal. But when they get outside, she turns from sweet little toddler to political schemer in an instant. She offers him information that will benefit his family, and in exchange, wants his protection against being adopted by Aquila. The Marquise is stunned, but of course, he listens. Anastasia tells him of a mine full of magic stones that can double the user's magical potential. In the original story, the Alter family only discovers this 2 years later, so giving it to the Rosellis now might change the plot completely. Marquise Rosellis doesn't quite believe her. She tries to convince him that she's a child of God and has the ability to dream of the future, and to use her prophecies to her advantage. Which probably sounds even less believable, but from the way she explains it, the Marquise is starting to realize Anastasia is much smarter than her age. She knows her position, she knows that she doesn't have protection, and she knows the right people to approach for an alliance. So the Marquise accepts her proposition on one condition. He has a grandson, the young heir to the Rosellis family, who is about the same age as Anastasia. You can probably see where this is going. Anastasia is a little surprised to receive a proposal opportunity at her age, but I guess if you act like an adult, people will start to treat you like one. I just hope he grows up handsome. Anastasia isn't planning to stay in Santra past the age of 12 anyway, so she doesn't care if she's engaged or not. Although, the idea of running away does make her heart ache a little. Meanwhile, inside the banquet hall, Aquila and Alter are refusing engagement gifts and instead asking their guests to sign a literal petition agreeing for them to adopt Princess Anastasia. How messed up is that? Weirdly, the only person who objects is Princess Stella. She really hates Anastasia that much that she can't stand the idea of her being accepted into the family. She thinks her toddler niece will perform some kind of black magic on their future children, which, actually, is more possible than she realizes. Anastasia walks past them at just the wrong time, trying to sneak away without being noticed. Of course, Sir Alter spots her and comes over to act all cutesy. It's obvious he just wants to show off in front of the guests. But the moment he picks her up, he can feel something unusual. Not just mana, but divine power blending around her like two forces mixing together. But that's not possible, at least not as far as he knows. He can't quite dismiss his concerns though, so instead of putting Anastasia down like she asks, he forces her into a hug. While holding her, he is able to transmit some of his magic powers to test her reaction. Anastasia is literally overflowing with magic already, so with Sir Alter flooding magic into her, she feels like she's about to explode. It's so painful that she starts screaming and hitting him in front of all the guests. Immediately, Parciel appears to pull her away and protect her with his divine energy. Anastasia was in so much pain she was bleeding from the mouth, but she can't let anyone see. As far as they know, it was just a hug, so the more she reacts, the more suspicious she looks. But what the heck was that guy trying to do? Was he really just testing her, or was that some kind of warning? Either way, Parciel is furious. He tackles Sir Alter to the ground, demanding to know what he just did. Alter looks way too happy. Not only is Sir Parciel publicly embarrassing himself, but he's just proven that they're trying to hide something about the princess and her abilities. No, God, this isn't good. Anastasia tries to calm her father down, just as the Emperor walks in to find his two best and brightest tousling on the floor. The guests are all stunned, but the angriest of all is Lady Alter. Seeing her son's ruined clothes, she throws wine all over Sir Parciel and starts screaming at him. As if that wasn't all embarrassing enough, Anastasia can't stand the insults the lady is throwing at her father, so she grabs an ice bucket from nearby and throws it all over her. What a mess. Don't they realize the Emperor is watching? Now Parciel is the one trying to calm her down while she gets into a verbal battle with a lady 10 times her age. Finally, the Emperor steps in and tells Anastasia to chill out. But he also asks Lady Alter to apologize to Sir Parciel. He's a war hero after all. He doesn't deserve all that slander. To the guests watching, it's very clear whose side His Majesty is on. But Sir Parciel doesn't want an apology. He just wants to get out of there as quickly as possible, so he apologizes on his daughter's behalf and walks away. While they're heading for the door, Aquila comes over and asks her fiancé what the heck just happened. After all that drama, Alter is happy to report that he's found a new way to get rid of Anastasia and her favored father. I have a feeling that has something to do with the magical powers he just discovered. While walking home, Anastasia scolds her father for not accepting Lady Alter's apology. But he's right. She wouldn't have meant it anyway. He's more grateful to the princess for standing up for him, but he also warns her not to do it again in the future. She's a princess after all. She needs to keep her reputation squeaky clean. When they return to the temple, the priestesses are shocked to see the state of Parciel's outfit. He doesn't really explain. He just hands Anastasia over and asks them to take care of her. The priestesses immediately notice the blood stains on her clothes, so she has to explain what happened with Sir Alter while they bathe and clean her. Everyone is very concerned. He really could have killed her. But while they're trying to figure out his motivations, Anastasia is more curious about something she overheard when Lady Alter was insulting Parciel. She asks the priestesses if he was once a slave. They dodge the question, but honestly, that's basically the same as admitting the answer. Now Anastasia understands all the scars on his body, why her mother's affair with him is so shameful, and why the other nobles seem to despise him so much. But how could they be so rude to a man who climbed from the very bottom of society to the top? It makes her so angry. Has she started to care for her reluctant father? Speaking of whom, Parciel is busy in his own quarters worrying about her as well. He knows what Alter discovered. It only makes him more concerned about the guy becoming her father. It absolutely can't happen. While he's sitting in the sauna getting more and more anxious, his daughter has discovered an unsealed letter in his pile of clothes. Curious, she takes a look. It's the same letter she saw on his desk a few days ago. In fact, it's a letter of resignation. Parciel has written it to the Emperor, thanking him for the opportunity to climb to these heights and promising to give up his position and become a traveling knight for the Empire. Suddenly, Parciel comes out and finds her reading the letter. She starts to cry, terrified at the idea that he will leave her again. Elsewhere in Santra, the Rasael family have been searching for the magical mine on Anastasia's instructions, and they finally struck gold. Or ruby, to be more accurate. They test it out and discover Anastasia wasn't lying. The gems have the ability to increase magical capacity by 50%. Now he just has to come through on the other half of his promise, keeping Anastasia from the hands of Alter and Aquila. Back at the temple, Parciel is facing the consequences of Anastasia's misery. She's been locked up in a room for hours, crying her eyes out, so the priestesses have come to Sir Parciel to find out what happened. Anastasia is refusing to tell anyone and just wants to be alone to cry it out. Just when she started to care for her father, he turned around and stabbed her in the back. The priestesses think he's crazy when they hear about the resignation letter and order Parciel to go straight to the princess and apologize on his knees. Damn right! From her bedroom, Anastasia hears a knock at the door and gives her father a death stare when he walks in. But Parciel just gets on his knees and promises he had no intention of submitting the letter. He's changed his mind because he wants to stay and protect her, especially now that Sir Alter is out to get her. Anastasia doesn't believe a word of it, but still he pulls her into a tight hug and says he's sorry. While all of this is going down, Alter is communicating with Aquila about Anastasia via a magical kind of telephone. He's explaining how she has both divine and magical powers, and how she will die if she's separated from Parciel before she can manage them. He plans to demand Parciel's dismissal for hiding such an important fact from the imperial family, and if that works, Anastasia will be sent to the Tower of Nihilum for being cursed with double powers. However, things don't go quite the way he planned. A few days later, he receives word that the Rasael family have rallied 18 other noble parties to oppose the adoption. Since he still has 30 families on his side, Alter goes ahead to the cabinet meeting anyway, hoping he has enough votes to win the adoption rights. However, as soon as the meeting starts, the Marquis Rasaele announces his discovery of the rare magical gem mine with incredible properties. The Emperor is giving him full reign to take charge of it, and everyone completely agrees. Now Alter is on the back foot. He goes ahead with his speech anyway and presents his signatures to the Emperor. That's when Rasael points out that lots of families disagree. He demands they leave it up to the princess and let her decide. At the perfect moment, Anastasia walks in and announces she doesn't want to be adopted by Sir Alter. He locked up her friend, and even worse, he tried to kill her at the engagement ceremony. Well, that certainly got their attention. Anastasia explains how he used magic on her, which comes as a shock to the Emperor. Defending himself, Alter reveals that she had both magical and divine powers in her aura, stunning the cabinet members. But that's exactly what Anastasia wants. In fact, she proves it by summoning a divine beast right in front of them. Alter accuses Sir Parciel of hiding this fact from her family, and he admits that's true. He didn't want her to be sent into Nihilum, so he hoped for the best and tried to keep it a secret to protect her. But he points out that Sir Alter also knew and didn't tell anyone either. Now, isn't that suspicious? The nobles start to argue about what should be done, since there's still a danger Anastasia could have a seizure and die. But Rasael reminds them all that she's a child of God. Shouldn't it be their main priority to try and keep her safe? And who better to do it than Sir Parciel? The nobles agree, leaving Alter shaking with rage. Parciel swears to dedicate himself to the princess's life and safety, and the Emperor accepts. He then turns to Alter and immediately announces that there will be no adoption. Well, that couldn't have gone better for Anastasia. The Marquise turned out to be a great ally. After the cabinet meeting, the Emperor meets with the High Priest for a report on Anastasia's condition. He confirms that the princess is able to use both divine and ordinary powers, though at the moment she is totally dependent on Parciel in order to survive. If he is allowed to stay with her, there's a good chance she'll become the first ever surviving Polyops. Who knows how powerful she could become? For the princess's sake, the Emperor decides to remove Sir Parciel from the line of duty, at least for now. They will also increase the number of royal guards, which comes as a surprise to the priest. He seems to think the prophecy could still be mistaken, but the Emperor is 100% convinced. The Emperor is still very curious about Anastasia's heritage, and suspects that the will she wrote was used to hide the real biological father. Uh-oh, he's onto something. Fortunately, the High Priest expresses his disapproval. In order to test for the princess's father, they will need to take some of her blood, which could be dangerous in her current state. And besides, the members of Princess Beatrice's elite squad were often replaced, so it would be difficult to confirm anyone who was near her at the time. It would be an emotionally difficult process for everyone involved, especially the princess. The Emperor can see the reason in that, so he backs off the subject. The most important thing right now is to get her through this period and make sure she can adapt to both her powers. If she can do that, then she may even become the one to find the 3 stones. I'm not sure which 3 stones he's talking about, but clearly Anastasia has more than one prophecy to fulfill. After the fallout of the cabinet meeting, a defeated Sir Alter returns to his fiancée, admitting that their plan has failed, so they might as well cancel their engagement. Aquila slaps him hard across the face. She's furious that he would decide to give up on her just because of the princess. If Aquila doesn't marry Alter, she will likely be married off to another country and live the rest of her life away from Santra. Obviously, that isn't something she wants. So for her, this engagement is still kind of a lifeline. Alter clearly doesn't want to be involved anymore, but he hides his true emotions and goes along with her for now. Aquila still thinks they have nothing to worry about. She's confident that Anastasia won't make it through the year. Which isn't surprising, since she still believes the princess is half Beatrice and half an enemy soldier. She has no idea that Anastasia has 2 powerhouse parents, one of whom will do literally anything to ensure she survives. Speaking of Parciel, he is currently touring Uditium, a notorious prison complex with Ark and Reagan. They've come to release the girl who was locked up by Sir Alter, although honestly, it seems like she's been pretty comfortable in her cell. At the order of Parciel, Ark and Reagan have been bringing her items to make her stay more bearable. But now they finally have permission to free her. The girl finally reveals that her name is Prigia Isutare. From now on, she'll be attending the Royal Academy so that she can learn to control her magic. It's usually reserved for nobles, but technically, anyone with magic can enter. And on Anastasia's request, she's been accepted for free. It seems like her life is going to be perfect from now on, but the remnants of her past still haunt Prigia. She makes it her mission to seek revenge for her brother and capture the thugs who kidnapped her. One of whom is hanging up in a prison cell beside her, calling out all kinds of insults about her and the princess. Well, before he suddenly coughs up blood and dies, that is. Isn't that a little dark for a bunch of kids to witness? Parciel, get them out of there! Prigia explains that he passed away because of an infamous curse in their gang. If anyone speaks of the leader or his personal information, they will immediately pass away. And right before he choked, that guy mentioned that their leader was half-blood and even thought he could become the king. Prigia isn't subject to the curse and has never seen their leader's face. He always wore a black robe, so she's only ever heard him speak. But anyway, moving on from that incredibly gory topic, their next stop is to the temple, so the priestesses can give Prigia a good old-fashioned makeover. She looks totally adorable with short hair and a pretty little dress. so Anastasia pushes her to show the boys too. They're both shocked by her transformation, but Ark seems totally stunned. "Cat got your tongue there, buddy?" He's so surprised that he knocks over some chess pieces, proving once again that a well-dressed woman could stop the world if she wanted to. While traveling together by carriage, the boys ask Anastasia about the recent news that she has taken on 2 powers. It raises a lot of questions. Aside from the whole "will she survive" issue, there's the question of where she would belong. Normally, those with divine power join a temple, but in many cases, nobles with divine power choose not to join. Of course, she can't become a knight either, since she's in line for the throne. I guess she'll just have to cross that bridge when she comes to it. At last, they arrive at the Royal Academy, where Prisia will be living in the dormitories from now on. She can hardly believe her luck to live somewhere so luxurious. Even her bedroom is beautiful. Of course, that's because Asha already prepared everything to make sure she would be comfortable. Prisia is so grateful that she starts to cry and gives Anastasia a huge hug. From being kidnapped to learning dark magic to ending up here, she really has been on a roller coaster. To repay her kindness, Prisia swears to become a great mage so that she can support Anastasia one day when she becomes empress. Great! So now puppy number 3 has joined her little pack, which seems to make Phaon a little jealous. After seeing Prisia get a hug, he picks his daughter up at once and commands everyone to return to their posts. Could he chill out a little, please? Aside from his behavior, she's still mad at him for the whole resignation letter thing. But Parciel assures her that he has no intention of ever leaving her. Not now that he finally has approval to raise her properly. So Anastasia gives her his hand and says she'll forgive him. After all, if things go to plan, she's going to be the one running away, not him. Although things are going good right now. The princess knows that the closer she gets to the throne, the more of a threat she'll become to Aquila. And she doesn't want to put herself in any more danger than she's already in. For now, her only job is to keep surviving until her future is more secure. Several years pass, and Anastasia starts to shoot up like a beanpole. Now she's 8 years old and looking more like her mother every day. There have been no major threats to her health or safety, and all her favorite people are still by her side. The 3 priestesses take very good care of her, and when he's not helping train young soldiers, Parciel is always by her side. They've been training for the last 3 years, which has helped her to fully adapt to her powers. She no longer has any seizures, and is even able to defend herself from powerful attacks using divine energy. But Anastasia isn't the only one who's been growing. Ark and Reagan are fully fledged knights at this point, although they're just as obsessed with the princess as they were when she was little. At their official knighting ceremony, Ark and Reagan even requested the Emperor to allow them to make an oath of allegiance to Anastasia. They are literally just big, loyal puppies with swords. With all these people surrounding her, Asha has been able to grow in peace and get stronger without ever worrying about evil Aquila and Alter. In the afternoons, she goes to magic class with a private tutor, although soon she'll start attending the Royal Academy. The Emperor has granted her special admission, even though she's technically still too young to attend. Of course, Stella can't stand the idea of her baby niece joining a graduate class before she's even finished high school. Before leaving her tutor, Anastasia asks him to teach her teleportation magic. She manages to summon a portal on her first try, because of course she does. But the hardest part is actually stepping inside, trying to conjure an image in her mind of where she wants to go and how to get there. Sounds way too complicated for an 8-year-old if you ask me. Just as she steps inside, she hears Stella mutter some kind of spell behind her, and it completely throws the princess off guard. Stumbling through time and space, she ends up in some kind of cupboard filled with books. The door is opened by a boy with dark hair and purple eyes. A boy we've seen before. Anastasia also recognizes him from somewhere, but before she can figure it out, she slips on the books and face plants on the floor. Nice one, girlie. Judging by the books, it seems like she's transported to the Royal Academy. She explains her mistake to the boy and asks if he's a student. Instead of answering, he covers her mouth and mumbles a spell. Well, that's suspicious as heck. He summons a sphere that muffles the sound and finally lets go of her mouth. When he steps away, he notes that she must be a member of the royal family due to her hair and eye color. He doesn't bow or apologize for literally manhandling her, just points it out casually. And that's because this kid is a prince himself, the first prince of Calisa, Basilio Artero Perius, which is quite the mouthful. Also kind of sounds like a fancy drink, but anyway. As if that wasn't shocking enough, Prince Basilio reveals that this is not the Royal Academy. This is Nihilum Tower, where he was dragged to 4 years ago as a hostage. Nihilum Tower is usually used to house dangerous war criminals or people with both mana and prana, just like Anastasia. So he's been locked in here for 4 years? And how does he know magic? You're not supposed to be able to use magic in Nihilum Tower. The prince explains that there are a lot of different types of mana in the Empire of Santra. Over 100, actually. Anastasia can do 98 of them because she's just that talented. But there's one unidentified type of mana that the Santrans don't know about, and that type is used by the royal family of Kalisa, which means Basilio can use his powers freely in the tower. Of course, if anyone were to find out about this, he would be killed. Anastasia just discovered a new kind of magic and found out that he possesses magic books. He has no choice now but to kill her. You might think that it sounds cold-hearted for a child, but considering the Santran royal family locked him in a literal tower for 4 years, you can see why he would go to these extremes. Even just looking in his eyes, he doesn't seem like an ordinary child. Anastasia starts to panic. Mana may not be allowed in the Tower of Nihilum, but it looks like prana is. She's not confident enough in her divine powers to attack the prince, so she tries to reason with him instead. Basilio won't listen to any attempts to beg for her life. But before he even touches her, Anastasia falls to the ground, clutching at her head. She suddenly remembered where she knows him from. This little evil prince killed her in a past life. It was her 9th life. She was attempting to stay alive by sticking to the shrine and spending all her time learning the Bible, secretly trying to use her magic. For the first time, she actually succeeded and managed to survive until the age of 12. One day, on the way to a prayer conference, there was an explosion. Anastasia turned to find a boy at the center of the chaos, wielding a kind of magic she had never seen before. That boy was Prince Basilio. He was holding off the knights all by himself, proving how strong he was. The next second, the nearby building collapsed and Anastasia was killed instantly. In this life, it looks like things are about to go the same way. Then, out of nowhere, the prince suddenly lifts her in his arms and carries her to the bed, gently setting her down on the covers. Wait, what? I thought he was going to kill her. He even asks if she's okay. Now Asha isn't afraid of him anymore. He doesn't have the guts to kill her. Even in her past life, in the final moments, she remembers him rushing toward her with his arms out. He didn't want her to die then, and he doesn't now. He's just a scared little boy who doesn't know what to do. His magic is obviously nowhere near the level it was when she last saw him. He's strong enough to sneak into the library and steal books to bring back to his room, but he can't yet get out of the Citadel. For now, he just stands there, yelling at her for calling him Leo. Anyone else think that's kind of adorable? I don't see his problem. Leo is such a cute name. Now that she's not afraid of him, Anastasia formally introduces herself too, and even offers her own nickname, Asha, if he wants to use it. He's still trying to act like a tough little thug, but Anastasia suddenly drags him over to an open window. She clambers up onto the balcony, ignoring his protests. She turns to face him, saying she would rather end her own life than have her blood on his hands. Little Leo is shocked. Isn't she scared of dying? Of course she is. That's why she wants to ask him a favor. One of his books was about preventing and breaking mana barriers. If he's able to break the magical barrier of Nihilum Tower, then Asha could escape. She promises to keep his secret and help him return to Kalisa. Of course, he doesn't believe her. I mean, can you blame him? There's no guarantee she will keep her promise. Anastasia understands his doubt. That's why she's putting her life on the line too. If he doesn't believe her, then she has no choice but to jump. Just as she's slipping backwards, Leo calls out and grabs her back, pulling them both into the safety of the bedroom. Wow, things just got really intense for a second back there. So I guess that means he has accepted her offer. Now she just has to find a way to free a prisoner of war and a dangerous future criminal from a magical prison. No biggie. When she returns to her accommodation, Parciel immediately comes to see her. Teleportation magic is difficult even for an adult. She should never have tried to do something so dangerous. Anastasia apologizes for worrying him and promises not to use it until she's older. Yeah, right, like she's gonna stick to that. Besides, she needs to return to the tower soon so that she can help Leo escape. Unfortunately, that's going to be very difficult. Following the teleportation incident, Parciel has started following her everywhere. Anastasia tries to shake him by pretending to go to sleep, planning to sneak out later. But then she actually falls asleep. I mean, the girl is 8 years old. Can you blame her? Over in the tower, Leo is lying in bed, wondering how he could have been so stupid as to trust the princess. He truly believes she's never coming back. While Anastasia is sound asleep in bed, her father was dozing off at the desk. He wakes and walks over to her, remembering the last 3 years and the peaceful joy he has felt being by her side. Of course, he's also been really stressed that it could all be taken away in a heartbeat. But he's chosen to believe that Lord Lux will allow him to be happy and stay with the princess. The next morning, Asha wakes up feeling rested but oblivious. The priestesses get her ready for her first day at the Royal Academy, which will also be her first introduction to the other noble sons and daughters of the Empire. Ark is already waiting outside in a school uniform. Apparently, he's going to attend the academy beside her. Kind of strange for a fully fledged knight to go back to school, but apparently he got permission to attend 1 year so that he can watch over Anastasia. Rolling up to the academy in a royal carriage is certainly one way to make an entrance. All the students are watching as she steps onto the ground. She's a little worried about how they'll react, but Ark solves that problem by forcing everyone to formally greet her. Great. I'm sure that will help her make friends. Every morning before school, they have chapel. Asha is told to sit at the very front next to Stella, so she forces Ark to come with her and sit between them. He is her fiancé, after all. Stella immediately gets all cute, trying to invite him over for tea. Pregia walks in late, so she is forced to stand at the back as a punishment. Asha looks concerned. Pregia isn't the type to turn up late, and everyone starts chuckling when she walks in. Uh-oh, there's definitely something going on. As soon as the service is over, Asha runs off to find Pregia, not caring that she's going to be late for class. She runs too quickly down the stairs and slips, falling headfirst into a boy with pink hair. Damn! How many meet cutes is this girl going to have? She's only 8 and already she's got like 4 different love interests. But this one is a little more significant than the others. With green eyes and flowing hair, he smiles gently and addresses the princess casually, earning him a punch on the head from Ark. But actually, he has the right to talk to her like that. Remember the Marquise Raselles who helped Anastasia not get adopted? Remember how his only condition was that one day she marry his grandson? Well, yeah, this is that grandson. Melvian Raselles is exactly as charming and sweet as his grandfather described. He's also helpful. He knows that Pregia is often bullied by members of the student council who hate her for just being a commoner. They make her do chores like laundry and dump a load of dirty clothes in her room to clean up. That probably explains why she was late to chapel. Instead of washing the clothes for Pregia, Asha decides to set an example by lighting them all on fire, which is kind of metal. While the students watch in shock, she warns them that she won't stand by if anyone is ever bullied like this again. When she gets home from school that day, Asha asks Parciel if he was ever bullied by the other knights when he was younger. He did have a hard time for the first couple of years, but as he rose through the ranks and proved his skills, no one dared to touch him. That gives Asha the incredibly ambitious idea to make Pregia the head of the student council. That way, she will have enough power to protect herself, even if Anastasia has to leave before she graduates. The next afternoon, Asha and Parciel are having tea together when Asha asks him if he drinks a certain tea because her mother used to like it. Parciel splutters in shock, trying to protest that he wouldn't know what kind of tea Princess Beatrice used to like. Anastasia responds innocently that since they spent so much time together exterminating monsters, she just thought he might have known. Refusing to be teased any longer, Parciel gets up to leave. Man, he really can't take a joke, huh? Anyway, this all works out in her favor because now she's free to practice portal magic without her father always lurking in the corner. As soon as he's gone, Anastasia grabs a bag and fills it with magic books, cookies, and cakes, as well as parchment and a quill to write with. She's hoping that if she shows up with gifts, Prince Leo won't be mad at her for staying away for so long. Or, at the very least, he might not kill her. When Anastasia teleports into the tower, she finds the prince preparing for bed already. Obviously, he's a little flustered that she appeared literally as he was changing. He wasn't expecting her to come back at all. Anastasia assures him that she always keeps her promises and reveals some of the presents she brought with her. Leo thinks she's lost her mind. Why would she return to see an enemy of the state who tried to kill her last time? If things were the other way around, he would have just reported her and been done with it. That's when Anastasia realizes why he's being so aggressive. He's scared. After a visit from his captor's princess, he probably thought he'd be taken away and executed. Asha tries to calm him down with an offer of snacks, which he refuses. But then his tummy starts rumbling, which gives him away. At that point, there's no reason to act tough, so Leo just gives in and shares some of the delicious cakes she's brought. Though he still acts like they were poisoned. Asha is satisfied to see him reluctantly enjoying the food, and asks if she can leave the magic books with him as well. She's worried that the servants will find them, but Leo assures her that no one ever comes to clean. He does it all himself. Other than the people who bring food, no one steps foot in his room. Aw, it must be a lonely life, especially for a kid. Still heavily suspicious of her, Leo presses Anastasia about her identity. She doesn't live in the palace, so she can't be an immediate member of the royal family. Plus, the only Sunshine princesses he saw both had brown hair. Of course, that's not a fun subject for Asha to recount. She mentions that she's the daughter of Princess Beatrice, which of course raises a whole load of other questions about her legitimacy since her mother wasn't married. Fortunately, Basilio doesn't hold it against her. It's not her fault that she was born too, just like it's not his fault he belongs to an enemy nation. And besides, his mother taught him never to blame children for their parents' mistakes. Asha is pretty impressed, which only makes her begrudging ally more uncomfortable. Something tells me it's going to be a long and tiresome road if she truly wants to become friends with this kid. But she really does want to. He reminds her of all her past lives, when she struggled to survive despite all the hardships in her life. They are both just victims of war, started by adults anyway. Why should they continue their parents' hatred? After Asha returns to the temple, poor Leo is exhausted. His heart was pounding the entire time. Not only did she almost catch him naked, but she was so kind to him, bringing sweets and asking to be friends. It's a little confusing for a boy who has spent half his life planning revenge on her entire family. Instead of dealing with the confusing feelings starting to appear, he decides to continue being friendly to Anastasia, but only to take advantage of her. Sure, Leo, we believe you. The next day at school, the young heir to the Versailles family is causing rumors to fly at the Royal Academy since he seems to be attached at the hip with the princess. The students have also noticed how loyal and dedicated Ark is, which obviously doesn't look so good for Princess Stella. One of her friends tells her to drop her fiancé and pick another boy, but it's not really that simple. Besides, Stella is less worried about Ark than she is worried about her troublesome niece. In order to teach her a lesson, her friend suggests they tamper with the next team exam, which happens to be a hunting festival. First place gets student council president, so Anastasia is keen to do her best for Prisia. Her father probably won't be happy to hear that she wants to participate, but Anastasia isn't too worried about him. She spots Prisia hiding across the courtyard and confronts her about the bullying. It's not that Prisia didn't trust the princess, she just didn't want to bother her. That really upsets Asha because she thinks of Prisia as one of her own and wants to take care of her. They end up having a little love fest and reassuring each other with a hug. But after all the dramatics, the princess is late to class and her teacher is not happy. Since she didn't attend yesterday either, he thinks she's trying to bend the rules because of her status. I'm not sure why this guy has such a grudge on an 8-year-old, but clearly he's got it out for her. His name is Professor Gaisar, a talented and celebrated magician who has won plenty of awards. Although there are rumors that he stole some of his ideas. To test her, the professor orders Asha to demonstrate her abilities by drawing the spell that makes a message stone. Boy, did he pick the wrong princess to mess with! Not only is Anastasia literally a genius, she also experiments a lot in her own time, so she's constantly tweaking and practicing magic from the textbook. The class watch in shock as she draws a perfect rendition of the spell, and then goes on to draw another which is more mana efficient and has the same power. Professor Gaisar is a little annoyed that she would try to outsmart a 50-year-old spell, but he agrees to test it later and sends her back to her seat. The girl next to her draws a message asking if she really thought up that spell all by herself. Barely 5 minutes into the class and she already has a new friend. Anastasia explains her research habits and they bond over their dislike for Professor Gaisar. It turns out this girl is the daughter of Viscount Estevan, Malia Estevan, or Mila for short. She's especially curious about Asha being able to summon divine beasts and asks to see it after class. When Parciel hears about her demonstration later, he isn't very pleased. The students all loved the beast she summoned and took turns hugging it. But her dad reminds Anastasia that divine beasts are not the same as pets, and they take up a lot of mana. She needs to be more careful in future. But Asha doesn't care about all that. She's more interested in seeing Parciel's famous divine dragon for once, the one he constantly refuses to summon. She begs and begs him to make just a small, less dangerous version, and eventually he gives in. I feel like we all knew that would happen. Parciel can never say no to his little girl. She's expecting a calm and reserved creature, since divine beasts usually resemble their owners in some way. But when the dragon appears, it's more like a plushie than a mythical beast. As soon as it appears, the dragon tackles Asha and starts licking her face. Maybe it came out all cute because that's how Parciel feels about his daughter? Asha is delighted to have a new cuddle buddy, and even more delighted by the expression on her father's face. He's never summoned such an adorable divine beast before. Clearly, it wasn't on purpose. Asha immediately nicknames the dragon Albe, and teases Parciel about how strange it is for the beast to have such a different personality from its master. While she's playing with it, Reagan arrives and also becomes obsessed with little Albie. He tries to pet him, but then the dragon gets super defensive and refuses to be touched by anyone other than Anastasia. That's more like the Parciel we know and love. The princess tries to introduce her little round puffball to the baby dragon, but Asha's beast gets embarrassed and runs away. Hiding in the bushes, there's a sudden noise and a flash of light, and then two little tails appear. What was once a powerless little ball is now an adorable two-tailed fox, with bright blue eyes just like its mistress. What in the Pokemon? Did her divine beast just evolve? Reagan congratulates her on the evolution of her beast, but Parciel doesn't think it's an ordinary fox. He suspects it will become a nine-tailed fox, a legendary beast that hasn't been summoned for over 80 years. Stella tries to play down her success at tea that afternoon by reminding everyone that it's still not in its divine form, as it only has two tails. Yeah, okay, thanks for your input, Stella. Let us know when you suddenly develop an ability to summon beasts. The Emperor is also on Anastasia's side, as per usual. He's already fallen in love with the little fox as well. He thanks Parciel for guiding his granddaughter so well and continuing to teach her to use her powers. The Emperor asks about school and which subjects she's enjoying so far. Asha says she likes international studies, and Aquila makes a comment about training with heretics in foreign countries. She's obviously trying to bring up Anastasia's foreign father, but Asha isn't easily knocked. She points out that trading with the so-called barbarian nations has a lot of benefits, including future alliances that could provide them support. Aquila may be smart, but she can't beat her 8-year-old niece when it comes to diplomacy, which is kind of hilarious when you think about it. Anastasia responds that trading and improving diplomatic relations also gives them a chance to introduce foreign countries to their religion, which really impresses her grandfather. He's so caught up with the cuteness of Anastasia's beast, which she has nicknamed Nain, that it gives the princess an idea. Maybe if she showed Nain to Prince Basilio, he would soften too? I mean, if cakes and cookies don't work, the next best bet is a puppy, right? Leo is shocked to discover that his new friend can summon divine beasts, but he's too proud to admit how much he likes it. Anastasia pretends that she has urgent business to attend to and offers to leave Nain with him overnight. The tower isn't too far from her bedroom, so it won't disappear when she's gone. Little does Leo know that divine beasts can share their senses with their masters, meaning Asha will be able to see everything he gets up to while she's gone. It's kind of weird for Asha to share her senses with her pet, especially since it puts her super close to the prince. Tentatively, he reaches down to pet Nain and then picks her up in his arms. It feels kind of nice to be petted like that, and Asha's happy to see Leo getting some comfort from Nain. But then he suddenly gives the divine beast a kiss, and the princess totally freaks out. Okay, so I guess he really likes cute animals. From then on, Anastasia sends Nain to stay with Prince Basilio every night. She only falls asleep after checking that they're peacefully tucked up in bed, which is kind of cute. But it also means she's getting a lot less sleep lately. One of the priestesses notices how tired she's been and suggests that she not participate in the upcoming hunting exam. But she worked so hard to get permission from her father, she can't stop now. Finally, the day of the exam rolls around. Anastasia gets up bright and early to greet Ark and Melvian at the scene of the exam. Pregia has also arrived, along with her latest addition, Mila. It's only been a week since they met, but already she follows her crew around everywhere. Am I the only one who's a little suspicious of this girl? Across the clearing lies their competition. Stella's gang, which includes her best friend Giselle, are shocked to see Ark siding with the princess, considering he was supposed to be in their group. I mean, are they really that surprised? As well as switching sides, Ark has also prepared a substance known as Pintac, though he's not sure why the princess requested it. I have a feeling she's got more than a few tricks up her sleeves. The rules of the exam are simple. Animals which are harder to hunt earn a higher score. Every member should score points for their team, which will then be added to create a winning total. Hunted animals should be thrown in the portals around the forest, although they're not safe for humans to go through. Dangerous animals have been enchanted to be slower, but the students are told to call the guards if anything dangerous happens. The groups are assigned randomly. Unfortunately, Anastasia ends up with Mila and a couple of her less powerful classmates. It looks like she's going to have to carry this one herself. But the princess isn't worried. As soon as the exam starts, she summons Nain, causing outrage across the other groups. They're only supposed to use magic that can harm animals, but no one said anything about divine power, so technically, she's still following the rules. Nain is super useful in a situation like this because she can track and locate prey very easily. That practically cuts their time in half. Right away, Nain locates a rabbit, so Anastasia uses a spell to make it faint. Before they can take it to the portal, they hear the sound of students in trouble in a nearby clearing. A queen bee and her hive have gone crazy and are swarming Stella's team. I wonder who could have caused that. Anastasia and Mila are well out of range, but even if they were close, they wouldn't be in danger. Those bees are actually small monsters that live by sucking blood from animals. They're not very dangerous unless they scent pentak, the substance she asked Ark to procure. Then they go crazy. Clearly, she managed to slip the substance into one of their pockets or something. While they're busy being stung, Anastasia manages to track down the members of her original team and regroup. Stella's team have been forced to withdraw, so they pretty much have the forest to themselves. They form a plan to hunt, corner, and subdue the animals as fast as possible so that they can rack up a lot of points in a short time span. She leads them around the forest at a breakneck speed until her powers run out and the others are exhausted. Looking for a chance to break, they head to a portal with food and water available. Anastasia insists they split into 2 teams because she low-key wants Ark and Pregia to have a chance to talk in private. She and Melvian head to a different portal and narrowly avoid being pushed in by a mysterious figure. The figure ends up battered and bruised on the ground after falling in herself. Yep, you guessed it. The attempted assassin was none other than Giselle, Stella's friend and accomplice. She's really losing it now. She has no proof Asha coordinated the bee attack, and Melvian can stand as a witness of her trying to harm the princess. She has made some seriously poor decisions today. Anastasia tries to use her telecom stone to reach the professor, but it's not working. As if that wasn't bad enough, the next second there's a giant dragon-like creature glaring down from above them. Giselle, who is apparently an idiot, immediately tries to attack it, dreaming of taking down the beast and becoming class president. She gets in one hit, but that pretty much does nothing. While the beast screams in her face, Asha and Melvian take the opportunity to run as fast as they can in the opposite direction. That monster was defeated last winter. Both the Veritas and Thanitas were brought out to erase it after it appeared near the capital. So, how is it back again? Maybe it has something to do with the fact that the usual commander Parciel was busy with his daughter instead of being on the battlefield? Asha and Melvian come across the rest of their team having a picnic. Sorry to interrupt, guys, but you gotta move. Now. Ark's telecom stone isn't working either, so they make a run for it. It's not long before Baranus, the monster, suddenly appears to block their path. Mila is already saying her goodbyes, but Ark has a plan. He wants to lure the monster to a nearby waterfall and then run once the beast is trapped. Meanwhile, the others should get out of the exam area so that they can use their telecom stones and restore their mana. Asha doesn't want to leave him, but she has no choice. They don't get far before 2 more Baranus monsters arrive. Everyone is exhausted and don't have much power, but they manage to throw up a temporary barrier shield. So they have to act smart and use as little energy as possible. Asha suddenly comes up with an idea to use mental repression magic on the monsters, and surprisingly, it works. But Pregia doesn't have enough power to do it twice. The last monster is bearing down on them when just in time, Parciel arrives and slashes the beast from head to toe. He was really cutting it close this time. Parciel was clearly terrified and runs over to hug her the second the monster has fallen. He's literally shaking. The kids, fortunately, are now safe with the soldiers. Ark also made it out alive, having successfully trapped a monster in the falls and escaped using underwater magic that the princess taught him. It's a relief that their crew is unharmed, but not everyone was so lucky. Some of the students died in the test, including Giselle, who thought she could tackle the beast on her own. Anastasia is exhausted both emotionally and physically and falls asleep in the carriage on the way home. She wakes up around midnight, suddenly remembering that she forgot to send Nain to visit Prince Basilio today. She almost goes back to sleep, but the guilt is too much for her to bear. She sends Nain as a transparent form to check if he's okay, and finds him shaking in bed. She wants to wake him up, but the princess has no power left to summon Nain's physical form, so it's virtually powerless. He's clearly having a nightmare. A horrible one, judging by the tears staining his face. So Anastasia summons the last of her power and teleports there herself. Leo is shocked to find her sitting by his bed and assures her he's fine. But Anastasia is now suffering from mana exhaustion. She can't go back. She only planned to stay a few hours so that she could recover her strength, but they end up sleeping side by side until the morning. Aww, how sweet is that? Of course, Leo immediately panics and starts thinking he has to take responsibility for sleeping beside a girl. Oh, he is just too pure. At dinner, Leo's mother, distressed by her brother's scandalous behavior, lectures him that sharing a bed means lifelong commitment. Miss, he's just a kid. Yet her words linger when Leo finds Asha asleep in his bed. Startled awake, she teleports away, leaving him stunned. Days later, Free becomes the student council president, silencing the bullies with fear. But Asha's magic appraisal remains unresolved. Feeling that there is something fishy going on, Asha explores the faculty building, discovering displays of past scholars, including her mother. Mr. Lascelles appears, praising the late princess's brilliance before guiding Asha to Professor Caesar's office. However, as she asks the old geezer about her magic formula appraisal, he responds that he has yet to appraise the magic formula. The audacity of this old man! And all because the results he tested first are not up to his taste, suggesting that it is not necessary to appraise them. Not until Mr. Lascelles scolds him for it. A month earlier, Caesar is shaken. Asha's first test results surpass Mr. Lania's. Our girl's a genius, just like her mom. But instead of pride, Caesar seethes with envy, plotting to bury her formula and steal it next year. He refuses to evaluate it until Lascelles intervenes. He argues with the man that as a professor, he earns the right to grade the students. Lascelles counters that it is also the right of the students if they want to evaluate their work. Then that must be since it is the Academy's rules. Stressed with Caesar's insolent behavior, he offers to evaluate Asha's magic formula and warns him if his evaluation is different from the first test, he will report Caesar to the Magic Ethics Committee. Soon after, Asha and Lascelles hold a tea party of their own, with her dodging his marriage hints for her and his grandson. Asha buries herself in her mom's old research, and a scribbled note catches her attention with what could be a revolutionary discovery. If proven, she'll be filthy rich. Her outburst seems to have heated the presence of Peon, but she quickly brushes it off by focusing on training. She couldn't let anyone know about the research. At the training grounds, Shellman teases her about upsetting Peon. Since their near-death ordeal, their heartwarming hug humanized the scary holy night, much to the knight's gossipy delights. During a break, the father-daughter duo has a moment to themselves. Aww. Peon even asks her about her interaction with Lascelles, to which she casually throws out the question about how he would feel if she were to get married. He freezes. Dun dun dun! Daddy's not ready for this conversation. Peon stiffens at the idea of Asha's arranged marriage, especially when she confirms Lascelles proposed it for political ties. Though he claims no right to interfere, the words spill out anyway. She deserves more than duty. She deserves love. Since when did he become such a doting father? When pressed, he grudgingly admits he hates the thought. A little while later, her gaze is fixed on the stubbornly dormant tree of life. If she were to resume and achieve success using her late mom's midway research, her escape plans would be over. But it'll have to take at least a year. The title, Child of Disaster, clings like a shadow, and memories of past betrayals whisper in her ear. Yet, this life's bonds tether her, leaving her torn. But our Asha is stubborn as a beet, reminiscing about the disease and how Peon abandoned her all those lifetimes ago. With only one thought in mind, she relies on her last resort. Desperation drives her to Leo. She asks about the rare black moon flower, its cultivation lost to time. He hesitates, sensing her evasion, and claims ignorance. He was only 3 when he saw it grow, and the magic required is long forgotten. But Asha's resolve hardens. If natural memory fails, a forbidden spell could pry the answers loose. Consequences be damned. She trusts Leo's skill. And perhaps, at last, he trusts her too. Asha's magic formula passed the evaluation without a hitch. Everyone congratulates the success and finds it a great deal with its various advantages. Ferdinand further extends his congratulations to his granddaughter personally too. Originally, she frets that she won't pass due to Caesar's results and failure to pass the formula to the jury. Learning of that, Ferdinand reprimands the professor, but the old fart apologizes with a flimsy excuse. Ugh, the audacity, really! When asked for the previous result, Caesar admits that he obtained data where disposed of. Everyone is just in pure disbelief with his actions that they believe he deserves severe punishment from the Magical Ethics Committee. Meanwhile, Asha is being rewarded with perfumes every month. Although it may not be something she wants, she instead can turn them into investments. What a clever strategy! With plans of a banquet in honor for her, it has to be postponed due to an epidemic spreading. Oh no! It'll take some time since Leo is refining his powers, but they will barely have time at all to cultivate the plants, because the epidemic will spread all over the entire country in a month. They need to be quick at all costs. The disease in question is said to be quite dangerous, as it is more on the interior, with the organs being gradually affected. The kingdom has no idea what type of disease it was, and divine powers don't seem to work at all. Thus, their only solution was to employ isolation. With a delegation from the southern continents arriving soon, Aquila is back with her evil plans against Asha. She intends to change the translator to their side in order to remove both the southern and northern delegations altogether. 3 years of a miserable life, she plans to finish this once and for all. Is she trying to prevent the quarantine from happening? The plot now thickens. Back in Leo's room, Asha pleads for the memory spell. Her project deadline looms. He warns her of its dangers, used in Kalisa for interrogating criminals but banned in Santra. He scoffs at their differing laws. Kalisa allows priests to marry and hold noble titles, yet both nations worship the same god. Seeing her crestfallen, Leo relents since she did say it is urgent. The spell requires a focused memory, nothing too invasive. Asha avoids her past lives, fixating instead on Swan Lake. But the moment the magic begins, her mind betrays her. With having no clue which fragment to choose, he sees a memory of a slightly grown Asha being scolded and the maids talking about her behind her back about her background. A red smoke occurs, and he realizes it's not the memory she wants him to see. But in a glance, he sees another memory. He sees a grown version of himself. And just with that, the vision snaps. Puzzled and confused, Asha claims that it's an illusion, but Leo argues that memories cannot be altered. He demands answers. Why does she know a version of him that doesn't yet exist? Trembling, Asha hesitates. How can she explain her regression without being treated like a monster? But Leo's quiet reassurance breaks her resolve. For the first time, she shares her burden, confessing everything, except Peon's true role in her life. Leo, on the other hand, is reeling over the fact that he technically killed her in one of her past lives. No matter how many attempts Asha tries to console him, he ends up in tears with guilt flowing in his veins. In the end, Leo asks for her to leave so he can have solitude. Meanwhile, outside the capital city, Aquila steps out of the carriage, dressing up in what is deemed as a hideous attempt at a disguise, and gets inside the building, where the interpreter, handsome, named Siro Sorab, greets her kindly. Without a preamble, she drops the information that the heir is an illegitimate child. Then she quickly changes the topic. He initially expects trade negotiations, but Aquila cuts off his thoughts. She's here to ruin the diplomacy and demands his cooperation. Automatically, Siro feels that Aquila is a troublesome woman. It's practically written all over her face. He asks her what she means by that, as he is from the Brillia delegation, but she boldly retorts that he does not originate from Brillia and just wants a contract with him since he would do anything willingly for money. However, despite the consequences and everything else, Siro is doomed from the start since Aquila uses her magic upon their interaction to make him do her bidding. Back in Leo's room, Nini stares at his sobbing out of genuine concern. Leo himself couldn't believe what Asha went through with the different various magic and phenomena there are in the world, even trying to blame himself for her death. The turmoil he is feeling, he hugs Nini. His loathing for Sparta, for his country and family's misfortune, makes him feel obliged to take responsibility, even if he is in enemy territory. At that exact time, Asha is watching over Leo through Nini, and she could only hope he sleeps well after the turn of events. The next day, Asha is met by the people from the Brillia delegation, with them wearing their cultural attire. Siro shows up, translating what the minister, Atar's Balub, greets to the king, and presents to him presents from Hodayar III as a token of appreciation. Asha thoughtfully compliments his translation, and it turns out that our princess has been studying southern languages. She plans to escape to Eldina, and to do so, she wants to practice her studies with the translator. With presents being specifically introduced, Asha is glad the exchange is going well since it is her idea, but she can't help but notice how Siro seems troubled, who was not at all subtle with his staring towards Aquila. She instinctively thinks they're up to something. But what is that something? Strolling around the palace gardens, Asha continues to be suspicious of the foreign man, to which Peon tells her not to do so. Their conversation is soon interrupted by Stella telling Asha not to come to the banquet, as it will be a total embarrassment for the country for an illegitimate princess to attend. Asha does not feel anything much about her outburst, but Peon comes to her defense, much to Stella's chagrin. Later, they all ate together, with Ferdinand calling forth for Asha with pride. Fortunately, it was for a good cause, as they dote on her and her divine beast. Withering with less energy, she spots Aquila being quiet, which adds more to her suspicions. The epidemic topic comes up, and Siro extends his knowledge that there is a similar disease that once occurred in Brillia. but he can't particularly say without further consultation with the delegates. However, Asha sees through his lies and Aquila's bland compliments from information she gathers from her previous life. One thing in her mind? What is Aquila really up to? Aquila's scheme becomes clear. She aims to manipulate Zero into destabilizing Brillia, worsening the epidemic, and branding Asha as another problematic child. Her callous disregard for innocent lives reveals her true cruelty. Excusing himself, Asha offers to accompany Zero, much to his puzzlement. Walking side by side, Zero is pressured by his own thoughts with his recent involvement with Aquila as he stares at Asha. Cutting off his curiosity, she confronts him about Aquila using the Southern language, even intimidating him that he does not know the cure at all. She taunts him of the consequences, and this allows Zero to kneel down in agony, fully acknowledging that he is a fool. With a promise for his safety, Asha offers him her hand as long as he becomes her double agent. They come back to the banquet, and the delegates are astonished that Asha can actually speak their language perfectly. With confidence, she wants Zero to help her improve her linguistic skills, but Stella opposes the idea since the delegation will be busy. Thoroughly planning ahead, Asha suggests that she stay in the palace since the delegation will be staying there. It'll be convenient to learn the language with them, especially during their free time. Of course, with Peon on her side. For now, Zero remains protected and Aquila's plot crumbles. But the real game has only just begun. Packing her things, Asha promises the others she'll come back to the temple once the trade exchange is over. But Peon is wary of her decision to be with Zero, which leads to the others teasing him. At the palace, the maid, Sherry, guides them to her room. The room that Beatrice once used as a little girl. Once Sherry leaves the room, Zero comes in, much to Peon's chagrin. Again! Before the lesson can even begin, a conservative Peon gives him clothes to cover himself, which instills more fear in the translator. Momentarily distracting the night with her late mom's book, Asha and Zero commence the class by talking through written messages of their plans about Aquila and the cure. As long as Zero acts well, the plan will be good enough. Yet, she couldn't help but worry if Leo is doing well. Asha finally comes to visit Leo, who is feeling much better. Their priority is the memory spell, as he willingly tells her that he will help her no matter the real reason. This time, it is Asha using the magic on him, and she sees a memory of young Leo with his mom on his birthday and his dad out at war. She stops the spell, and the two discuss his late mom and how she died at the hands of the Santran enemy. Feeling guilty of what her people had done, he comforts her that he does not blame her, and he's now indebted to her. Even with Leo's deserved hatred for Santra, Asha is determined to get him out of the tower as she regains the strength to use her magic again. Meanwhile, Aquila confronts Zero about his unusual behavior of extending a hand to teach Asha. Feeling the fear, he bravely responds that he's just helping her achieve her goal of getting rid of the young princess. And knowing that Asha is a double wielder, they will need to seek more of her weakness. Like by dabbling in the fact that she can wield dark magic. Aquila scoffs at the idea, but as it turns out, Asha already had predicted the outcome. Zero suggests that if he is 24/7 with Asha, he serves as the perfect witness to that. Aquila questions his confidence despite his scaredy-cat personality, but he reassures her again that he desires to do his best to come to her aid. This got her into thinking that this is quite a clever strategy to finally get rid of Asha, and she promises to give him double as well to consult her if he plots something again. At the palace, the king soon gets informed that the disease is spreading to Valhair at an alarming rate. Zero comes to the rescue, requesting a word alone with his highness. Taking a deep breath with Asha's instructions in mind, he bows down, apologizing for his mistake. Zero then offers him a part of his knowledge of a cure, a plant that only grows in Kalisa and Batias. However, the information proves to give Ferdinand stress, as the kingdom already had cut down their connections with Batias years ago, and if they heed the call of Kalisa, that would mean giving up Leo. Reluctant with Zero, he ends up agreeing, as this is an urgent matter. Any help is good help, as they say. Meanwhile, Asha, already figuring out the magic formula to cultivate the flower, casts a spell to the pot, but alas, the progress might be slow since she has to do this every day. Zero enters. It's like he's all over the place, and he informs her that the situation is in a difficult position since the king of Batias asks for 10 million arums in exchange for the flower. But Asha stays positive. As long as Zero continues to persuade the king, everything else will be okay. In the kitchen, Asha decides to bake secretly, as Leo's birthday is tomorrow. But she faces the ultimate obstacle in her whole 9 lives. Is she a bad cook? In a full panic mode, Asha questions herself why she messes up when books have never failed her. Sobbing in distress, she calls out for Sherry's help. Up in the tower, Leo recounts the days before he was taken away from his kingdom, but doubts come in from his desire to become free. Is it truly right to help a princess from enemy territory? Coincidentally, Asha appears before him with his birthday cake and even comes bearing a gift, a pocket watch so he can tell the time and date. Aww, our sweet Asha. Just by that, Leo sees her in a new light, comparing her to a second hand of a clock. That even if his time may have stopped after being locked up, it starts up again with her around. This isn't resentment he feels. Appreciating his present, she tells him that she has a good feeling with the magic she did to cultivate the plant, and if it works, she'll be able to take him outside the tower. Furthermore, she tells him of her plans to leave Santra and wishes for him to get back to Kalisa before she departs. However, their conversation was put into a halt when Alv appears in between them, indicating that Peon catches her not in her bedroom. OMG! Asha panics. With a plea for Leo to undo the mana barrier, she vanishes in a poof. But her relief is short-lived. Back in her room, she's met with Peon's seething glare. She tries to deflect, boasting about her portal magics project, but it only fuels his fury since she has been keeping communication with Leo at the tower. When Peon threatens to report the unstable mana barrier to the authorities, Asha digs in her heels. Leo does not deserve this treatment, as he is just a boy. Peon counters that she shouldn't sympathize with the son of the man who murdered her mom, but despite that, she knows too well the pain of being punished for other sins. 3 years locked away, abandoned by the very man now preaching protection. He clenches his fist, distraught. He tells her that she's ruining everything he worked hard for just to protect her. She corrects him that he's only here because of the king's orders. Already in tears, she reprimands him for always running away and rushes out, telling him not to follow her. Despite the fear, shock, and tremor he feels, he realizes Asha knows he is her father and reflects upon himself with the truth settling in his head. Peon's childhood was forged in cruelty, sold into slavery by his own mother, forced to battle monsters, vowing never to become a parent like her. Yet decades later, as a holy knight blessed with a divine power of his own, he's done the unthinkable. He's broken his daughter's heart. Meanwhile, Asha is crying at someplace else, coming up with plans since she realizes something. She had slipped up. Reeling in how this might end up negatively for him, she plans to get back to her room but spots something valuable. The seed is sprouting into a bud. Yet, morning brings dread as she feels reluctant to meet him for training, but she encounters him with a bad case of eye bags. Inside the carriage, intending to apologize, he tells her not to go out and to sleep early as it isn't good for her health. Stunned at the unexpected behavior, she questions it. An awkward rift arose throughout the ride. She couldn't help but think if they're going to resume ignoring the elephant in the room. A week later, Ciro hands Aquila a diary. Asha's diary detailing her nightly visits to Leo. Oh no! This could mean a victory for Aquila upon receiving this information! As Aquila flips through the pages of Anastasia's diary, each word reveals a hidden truth. Anastasia has been secretly learning magic, and not just from anyone, but from Leo, the Prince of Kalisa. The deeper she reads, the more Aquila is reminded of the uncanny resemblance between Anastasia and her own late mother, Beatrice. Meanwhile, back at the isolated Tower of Nilum, Leo nervously paces, his thoughts racing. Has someone found out about their meetings? What if Anastasia's in trouble? But before he can spiral any further, Anastasia appears. She says something quickly, wasting no time. There's no room for small talk now. Suddenly, the door bursts open, revealing Sir Altor. Without hesitation, he orders Leo to let go of Anastasia. One wrong move and Leo's in for serious consequences. But Anastasia doesn't back down. She shields Leo with fierce determination. Just as the standoff heats up, the king himself barges in, demanding an explanation. He catches the tail end of the drama, and Sir Altor wastes no time throwing Anastasia under the bus. He spills everything. The king is stunned. The room falls silent. Everything is out in the open. The king stands frozen, shocked and unsure, wondering if everything Sir Altor just said could possibly be true. But Sir Altor isn't finished. The king snaps, questioning why the knights have failed so miserably. Before Anastasia can explain, Sir Parshell bursts into the room out of breath. He pleads with the king not to punish the young princess. He drops to his knees, torn between loyalty and duty. But Anastasia won't stay silent. She steps forward to protect her father, finally telling the truth. She talks about the rare flowers she's possessed, one she discovered long ago but failed to cultivate. She also shares how she met Leo, and how despite being from an enemy kingdom, he helped her cultivate the flower through magic. Sir Altor tries to interrupt again, but the king silences him. And right then, she reveals it, fully bloomed, the life-giving flower. The king is in awe. He immediately orders it to be tested on the sick. But before he can go further, Anastasia strikes a deal. Leo must be freed, treated equally as the prince that he is. It's a bold move, but with the knowledge she's carried through lifetimes and her so-called title, Anastasia has no doubt this plan is going to work. Faced with Anastasia's bold request and unwavering resolve, the king makes his decision. He grants her wish. Leo is to be released and acknowledged as royalty, despite Sir Altor's boiling frustration. At last, Leo walks free. No more hiding in a tower. But just when it seems like the storm has passed, Anastasia turns to Sir Altor with a sharp question. How did he get his hands on her diary? Sir Altor freezes. Caught off guard, he blurts out a shaky excuse. Clearly a lie, trying to cover up whatever plans he had brewing. Later that night, the king visits the high priest, Ishmael, once again. He fills him in on everything, the confrontation, the diary, the flower, and Anastasia's courage. But most importantly, shares his decision. He wants Anastasia to be his heir. It won't be easy, but with Ishmael and the temple support, they just might be able to weather the storm. By morning, those behind the scheme scramble to clean up the mess. They pin everything on a palace maid, tossing her under the bus to protect themselves. Now alone, Aquila lashes out at her fiancé, Sir Altor. Furious, she demands answers. How could everything fall apart again? There's no use hiding it anymore. Their only option now is to eliminate Anastasia and remove Sir Parshel permanently. Meanwhile, under the stillness of night, Anastasia quietly asks Sir Parshel a question that's been weighing on her heart. Why did he stand up for her knowing he could lose everything? Faced with Anastasia's firm words, Sir Parshel finally breaks the truth. He reveals what's been buried in his heart, a willingness to give up everything if it means protecting her, his daughter. But Anastasia sees the danger in that kind of sacrifice, so for his sake, she decides to keep her distance. The next day, the king makes a bold announcement to the nobles, announcing that Leo will no longer be a prisoner. Furious murmurs ripple throughout the palace, senators and noble families enraged by the sudden decision. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the palace, Sir Altor is confronted as to why he hasn't stopped His Majesty's plans. Nonetheless, even after all his failed attempts, he clearly has another plan up his sleeves. Days pass, and Anastasia receives news that she's forbidden from seeing Leo. But she refuses to be kept apart. Using her divine beast, she finds a way to check in on him from afar. And there he is, calm and composed like a prince. But what catches her off guard isn't just how well he's adjusting, it's what he says. Leo looks straight into the divine beast's eyes and asks if Anastasia is watching him. He knows! Leo picks up a pen and scribbles something on paper, then holds it up right in front of Nini's eyes. It's a quiet but clear message. He's known for a while now. He tells Anastasia not to worry and to stop keeping secrets. Weeks roll by. Anastasia congratulates Cyrus on his recent award. Thanks to the miraculous life-giving flower, the once sick patients are recovering well. The success even sparks interest from foreign nobles, hoping to form partnerships with the kingdom. But while the spotlight shines on Cyrus, he isn't exactly thrilled. He's stuck in the country, now working as Anastasia's translator, and still haunted by the thought of what Aquila might do if he slips up. Anastasia reassures him, but then she drops something unexpected. She wants to escape the kingdom and live in Eldina. Cyrus nearly falls over. That's his hometown. But he doesn't sugarcoat it. Living there isn't easy. Everything's expensive. Really expensive. Still, Anastasia isn't backing down. She's brewing something big and she needs Cyrus to be a part of it. Eventually, they shake hands on it. Right after sealing the deal, one of Anastasia's maids hands her a letter. It's from Mila. Mila writes about an upcoming festival and invites Anastasia and her friends. Apparently, her parents have been dying to meet the princess in person. So faced with the invitation, Anastasia agrees. And this time, she's bringing everyone along, even Sir Parshel. The three priestesses are thrilled to see Anastasia again, but when they watch how she interacts with Sir Parshel, they're completely speechless. She's no longer calling him Papa. Something between them has clearly changed. Just as the air turns thick with awkward silence, Ark and Reagan arrive, full of energy and ready to hit the road. Without missing a beat, Reagan sweeps Anastasia off her feet, literally spinning her in the air in gratitude for saving his sister's life. Right behind them, Phrygia and Melvian enter the scene. Melvian gives Anastasia a charming greeting. Maybe a little too charming. Of course, Ark, ever the overprotective brother figure, looks absolutely disgusted by Melvian's behavior. Just when they're about to leave, Cirrus comes running in, panting, red-faced, and nearly left behind. As they sort out who's riding with whom, Anastasia casually mentions she'd rather ride with the girls instead of sitting next to Sir Parshell. That one sentence? It sends shockwaves. Cirrus, Ark, and Reagan all freeze, jaws dropped, clearly still terrified of being left alone with the scary Sir Parshell. They'd rather face a magical beast than sit quietly next to that man. On the road, Sarah finds a moment to ask Anastasia why she's pulling away from Sir Parshell, but Anastasia brushes it off with a vague answer. She claims it's just part of growing up. Later, as Anastasia sleeps peacefully, the three priestesses huddle together, whispering about her sudden coldness towards Sir Parshell. They suspect something deeper, something emotional. And with puberty around the corner, they worry she might pull away from them too. With Phrygia's help, they come up with a plan. A gentle push to help mend what's been broken. The next morning, in the inn they spent the night in, everyone wakes to a warm, cozy atmosphere. Sunlight pours through the windows, laughter fills the halls, and the smell of breakfast wafts through the air. Everything seems perfect, until Anastasia is casually forced to sit beside Sir Parshell. And just like that, the priestess's plan is set in motion. After a long journey, the group finally arrives at Konazia village, Mila's hometown. Mila bursts with excitement the moment she spots Anastasia, but surprisingly, it's her parents who seem to be even more thrilled. Mila reveals that her mother, who makes dresses as a hobby, spent the entire week sewing up outfits for Anastasia. A few might have been an understatement. She then gives everyone a tour of the Estevan family manor, eagerly showcasing her collection of handmade dolls. The Estevan household sure take their hobbies very seriously. And the proof doesn't stop there. Lord Estevan shyly presents his passion in ship models. Everyone's eyes widen in amazement at the delicate craftsmanship and detail. Curious and impressed, Anastasia asks if he'd be willing to show her more of his research on ships and magic soon. Meanwhile, outside the manor, the villagers warmly greet Mila as she passes by. It's clear she's loved by everyone. Spotting a moment of opportunity, the three priestesses once again meddle, this time encouraging Sir Parshell to carry the princess, insisting she must be tired. He hesitates, but in the end, he quietly lifts her into his arms. As they continue down the path, Anastasia spots an ice cream cart in the distance. Her eyes light up and Sir Parshell notices. He buys one and hands it to her without a word. But just as the vendor casually asks about their relationship, without a warning, Anastasia shoves the ice cream right into Sir Parshell's mouth. Back in the palace, Leo quietly reads a letter from Anastasia. She writes about her trip to Konazia and how much she hopes to see him again. Though still under watch, there's freedom in his days now, a chance to send a message to his father through a messenger bird. But his thoughts are heavy. That night still lingers in his mind. Suddenly, a knight interrupts his thoughts. The king wants to see him. In the greenhouse, the king welcomes Leo, but the atmosphere is tense. The king speaks plainly, wondering what he should do with Leo. And with Anastasia chosen as his heir, the king wants no lingering tension. To Leo, it all becomes clear. The king is only using Anastasia in his political game. Still, Leo agrees with his decision because he knows the truth. Anastasia has no interest in ruling, and one day, she's going to leave this place. Back in Konazia, Anastasia browses the shop, searching for a souvenir for Leo. As she scans the shelves, her attention is caught by two women talking nearby. They praise the king's help in aiding the contagious disease. Melvian hears it too. He mutters in disbelief, disappointed that Anastasia isn't being recognized for her work. Hearing his words of support, Anastasia falls silent. Later that night, Anastasia wakes from her slumber, her throat dry. She quietly slips out of bed, hoping to find the kitchen. As she tiptoes down the hall, voices stop her in her tracks. It's Mila's parents. She overhears their hushed conversation. Their merchants have canceled every stock order, and if things continue this way, they might face bankruptcy, all because of a misunderstanding. Still, neither the Viscount nor Viscountess wants to trouble Anastasia on this matter. By morning, Anastasia gathers everyone and announces a change in plans. Instead, she wants to stay and support Viscount Estevan's research. More than that, she wants to help him recover by finding ways to sell his goods in Brillia. The Viscount is stunned, humbled. He never expected such generosity from the princess. Seeing Anastasia insist on taking part in the research, the others follow her lead. As the days fly by, failures turn into learning, setbacks into teamwork. Then at last, the day of the festival arrives. With one final attempt left, they gather around. One more try, hoping that maybe this time it finally works. After countless failed attempts and long hours poured into the Viscount's research, success finally strikes. The formula worked! Everyone stares in awe, hardly believing it. All those late nights and trial runs finally paid off, and with their spirits high, they head off to enjoy the village festival and celebration. Somehow, Anastasia ends up arriving hand in hand with Sir Parshell. Yep, this was definitely the priestess's doing again. But despite their efforts to push the two as a father-daughter pair, the villagers don't quite buy it. Instead, they think they're siblings. As the group strolls around, Anastasia spots Reagan in line at a crossbow game. He's focused, determined to win a prize for her. But when he shoots, he misses. Badly. Ark tries too, but no luck. Then Sir Parshell quietly steps forward. With one smooth motion, he picks up the bow, aims, and lands a clean hit on the target. Cheers erupt as he hands the plushie to Anastasia. They continue passing through the stands until someone calls out to Anastasia from one of the booths. The girl says she knows a secret, one that Anastasia hasn't told anyone. Curious about what the mysterious woman meant, Anastasia approaches her booth. Intrigued, she asks for a reading. The woman warns of a looming tragedy in Anastasia's future, one that can only be avoided if she sacrifices something precious. Before she can say more, Sir Parshell steps in and pulls her away, clearly wanting none of this ominous nonsense. But her words stick, like a whisper she can't unhear. Still, Anastasia forces the thoughts out of her head. She's here for the festival and she's going to enjoy it. As night falls, everyone gathers to await the fireworks. Phrygia walks up, holding a small bunch of flowers, beaming as they looked perfect on Anastasia. Then comes Melvian, his arms with a bouquet. Before Anastasia could properly thank him, Reagan and Ark arrive, each with another set of bouquets in their hand. But Ark, being the last to show up, shyly hands his bouquet to Phrygia instead. Then, with perfect timing, the fireworks begin. Color explodes overhead. Reds, blues, golds. They reflect in everyone's eyes with bright smiles. Anastasia watches them all, tears pricking her eyes. This moment, this feeling, she'll never forget it. Soon, she'll have to leave them behind. And that, more than anything, will be the hardest thing she's ever gonna do. As their peaceful vacation comes to an end, everyone returns to the capital, and Anastasia finds herself back within the familiar walls of the temple. Life goes on, but the awkward air between her and Sir Parshell remains. She tries not to dwell on it until Sierra arrives with unexpected news. The king has officially granted her permission to visit Leo. Wasting no time, Anastasia heads straight to him. When she arrives, Leo is still under tight security, and so proper etiquette is expected. Anastasia tries to speak with formality, but quickly drops the act. It's too stiff, too awkward and cringe. Leo can't help but burst into laughter at her sudden behavior. Irritated by his reaction, Anastasia demands that he stop being so formal too. She insists he call her by her nickname. Faced with her upfront attitude, Leo gives in, stammering out her nickname with a light blush. Their conversation flows naturally until they both feel someone's gaze. They glance over to see Sir Parshell, glaring daggers at Leo. Leo, confused, leans closer and asks why the captain of the Holy Guard is looking at him intently. He wonders what exactly is her relationship with that man. Before Anastasia can respond further, Leo casually shifts the subject, mentioning that he's been granted permission to attend the academy. Her eyes widen, but Leo just smiles, reassuring her. Still, Anastasia doesn't let it go. She insists he should stay close to her as she's about to reveal her recent research to him, hoping he'll be the first to test it out. But suddenly, Sir Parshell informs her that the High Priest has summoned her. She walks through the marble halls, unsure what to expect. Inside, Ishmael greets her, and then the words fall, informing her that the king has made it official. Anastasia is now named the heir to the throne. Faced with such life-altering news, Anastasia is speechless. This isn't what she wanted. She never dreamed of being next in line to the throne. All her plans to escape and live freely begin to crumble before her eyes. How can she run now when the kingdom is preparing to crown her as its future ruler? She tries to explain herself, to make excuses, but it's no use. The decision is final. The king has spoken, and Ishmael stands firmly beside it. The next morning, reality hits hard, and she takes a step forward. She confides to Cirrus, revealing her plan to leave Santra in 2 months. Cirrus, shocked and worried, asks how she plans to survive with barely any money. But Anastasia is ready. She shows him the magic projection tool she's been developing, crafted specifically for those without any magical powers. A spark lights in Cirrus's eyes. He instantly sees its value. If she were to sell this to Brilio, the people would pay handsomely to get their hands on it. But one problem remains: Leo. She doesn't want to leave him behind, but taking him with her is out of the question too. In the academy meeting hall, every student gathers. Tension buzzes through the air. Ishmael steps forward as he calls out the one person they disliked, Leo. All eyes turn to him as he walks to the podium. He stands tall and confident, and with that he introduces himself to the entire academy. The room erupts in whispers. The prince from the enemy kingdom has revealed himself. As expected, not everyone welcomes Leo's sudden attendance at the academy. Whispers fill the halls. Meanwhile, on the bustling streets of Santra, a royal announcement captures everyone's attention. The king declares the return of the Foundation Festival, a grand celebration to introduce the public to his granddaughter, Anastasia, the daughter of the late Princess Beatrice. Meanwhile, in the palace, Aquila is livid. The king has finally given in to the priest's influence. Everything she feared is happening. Fuming, she calls Sir Altor, demanding updates on their plan. He confidently reassures her that the plan will soon be executed. Their scheme to remove Sir Parshel is almost complete. Back at the temple, Reagan delivers the news to Sir Parshel, announcing that the king has made it official. Sir Parshel's eyes widen and he excuses himself. Lately, he sensed that his divine powers are weakening. He steps aside, casting a simple spell, just one, to confirm his suspicions. Then his heart sinks as he coughs up blood. The very thing he feared for so long has finally begun. Sir Parshel grips his chest, deep in thought, his hand slightly trembling. Something is definitely wrong. His mind drifts back to that sorrowful day, when he cried for the late Princess Beatrice. The pain, the grief, it's all coming back. He knows that he should step down, but how could he? He made a promise to Anastasia, to protect her, to stay by her side. Stepping down would mean breaking that vow. And for Sir Parshel, breaking a promise to her isn't an option. Back at the academy, all eyes are on Anastasia and Leo. All eyes trail them, curious and judging. Anastasia barely has time to speak before a voice cuts through the crowd. Stella storms over, her face twisted in frustration. She's just returned from the hospital and isn't pleased to see Leo taking the spotlight. Her irritation boils, but Leo stays composed. He calmly cuts her off, comparing Anastasia's kindness to Stella's brashness. Ouch! He didn't hold back at all. Anastasia, not wanting the rising drama, quickly pulls Leo away. The last thing they need is another scene on the first day of school. Later that night, the 3 priestesses pay Anastasia a visit. They inform her that the king has made the announcement. They're excited for her. She finally gets to be seen. But Anastasia freezes in disbelief. She thought she still had time to prepare, time to plan. But now the entire kingdom knows who she is, that she's the daughter of the late Princess Beatrice, and the next in line for the throne. Sir Parshel stands frozen, his gaze fixed elsewhere. The worry in his eyes is impossible to hide. Now that Anastasia's identity is public, the danger circling her feels closer than ever. Anastasia catches on. Her chest tightens as past memories resurface, memories of how her life ended before. Sierra slips in beside her, wrapping her in a warm embrace, insisting that nothing bad could ever happen to someone as gentle as her. The next morning at the academy, Orphan from the House Orleans walks towards Anastasia. His grudge burns clear, still furious over Leo belittling Stella yesterday, demanding an apology. Leo refuses, making Orphan's lips curl in fury. Before Anastasia can react, Melvi and Mila step forward, calling Orphan out for being rude. They point out he has no proof of his claims. That only fuels his irritation. Leo, however, has had enough. His eyes lock on Orphan, warning him if he tries to insult him again, the response will be far worse. And besides, he's already on speaking terms with the king himself, so any complaint sent to the palace would be meaningless. The words hit. Orphan and his crew storms off, frustration written on his face. Anastasia's relieved that the fight didn't escalate into a huge fight. Then Melvian congratulates her on the recent news, casually mentioning their engagement. She freezes, nearly spitting out her drink. She hadn't expected him to drop the news in front of everyone. Mila and Frisia blink in surprise, curiosity sparking instantly. Meanwhile, Leo scowls, clearly displeased with the news. Leo, my man, you better step up, cause the competition's making moves. Soon, Anastasia and Leo return to the temple, only to realize Sir Parshell is nowhere in sight. Anastasia tells Ark not to worry, confident Sir Parshell will soon appear. But Ark hesitates, not liking the idea of leaving her alone with Leo, but eventually obeys. The silence between them is heavy. Anastasia tries to cut through the awkwardness. Then suddenly, Leo grabs her arm and pulls her far away. Alone, far from the temple, he corners her against a tree, his expression fierce. His voice low, vowing that no one else will take her away from him. Not now, not ever. Oh my, hello? I stand corrected. The guy sure knows how to keep his lady. Anastasia freezes at Leo's sudden confession, instinctively stepping back. He casually recalls his mother's words, that only couples who care for each other sleep together. She's dumbfounded, unsure what couples truly do, but she's certain it's far more than just sharing a bed. Her answer wipes the smile from his face. She tries to end the subject, reminding him a Santra-born and Kalisa-born marriage would spark outrage. Before he can respond, Leo's messenger bird, Mito, flutters in. He brightens instantly, but Sir Parshell's voice cuts through the forest. They hide the note in a rush, with Anastasia covering for Leo when Parshell arrives. She notices blood on his uniform, but he dismisses it quickly and starts their training instead. At the training grounds, Anastasia focuses on her divine powers, while Leo, guarded by Reagan, watches. Reagan's eyes linger on him, leading to a blunt question about his relationship with Anastasia. Leo throws the question back, and Reagan claims she's like a sister. Jealousy stirs in Leo. Spotting Reagan's sword, he asks to hold it. Although it's against his better judgment, Reagan hands it over. The instant Leo grips it, the air shifts. Electricity crackles, and the blade erupts in a fierce blazing aura. Sir Parshell instantly steps in, blocking the dangerous aura radiating from the blade. Reagan rushes forward, yanking his sword away with wide eyes, clearly feeling cheated that he was betrayed by Leo's lies. As Leo slumps back, his mind whirls. If only his father knew he can use aura now. Out of the corner of his eye, he spots Anastasia, her eyes sparkling, mouthing, "Congratulations!" Aw, no wonder why Leo likes her. Night falls. In his room, Leo sits on his bed, unrolling the note, chanting softly to reveal the hidden note. His eyes scan the note. His father speaks of preparing for another war. Leo's grip on the paper tightens, his chest aching, conflicted. Meanwhile, in another room, Sir Parshell coughs violently. Blood stains his hand. His symptoms are worsening, but he has to stay strong to protect the princess. This was clearly Sir Altor's doing. His plan to take over Sir Parshell and eliminate the princess is coming true. Over the next few days, Anastasia notices Sir Parshell growing paler. Concerned, she urges him to see a doctor, but he brushes it off as exhaustion. Even when Sierra suggests he take leave, he refuses. At the academy, Mila excitedly announces her father's research has won an award, and Anastasia congratulates her. Soon after, news comes that Cirrus has received Brillia's payment, signaling that Anastasia's departure from Santra is near. Meanwhile, Stella sets her plan in motion, sending Orphan to provoke Leo about Kalisa becoming Santra's vassal. Anastasia stiffens at the jab, but before Leo can react, she guides him away. However, Orphan persists, mocking them from behind. This time, Leo's temper snaps. He shoves Orphan to the ground. Anastasia stops him, but his eyes burn with fury. He storms off, and she follows. The carriage ride is tense. Anastasia keeps her gaze on him, worrying deepening, until he suddenly clutches his chest, gasping in pain. Dark, smoky tendrils seep from his body, curling in the air. She pulls him into her arms, shielding him as his strength falters, just as Sir Parshell rushes toward them. Anastasia finds herself in a strange, dreamlike realm of glowing clouds, her steps soft and weightless. She wanders in wonder until she spots Sir Parshell in the distance. The moment feels oddly peaceful. That is until she asks if he truly loves her. He's caught off guard, but as he responds, the dream shatters. She wakes with panic in her chest, demanding news about Leo. Sierra explains that Parshell collapsed protecting Leo, and there's still no word on Leo's condition. Fear fuels her steps as she rushes to Sir Parshell's side, only to find him pale and lifeless. The High Priest admits his healing isn't working. Something dark is draining Parshell's life away, and time is running out. Meanwhile, far from the temple, Aquila learns that although there were delays, the plan is progressing. With Leo now locked back in the Tower of Nilium, she seems certain her victory is within reach. That dream is a huge tease. What was Parshell about to say? And dang, now both he and Leo are in danger! The king storms into the chamber, his voice urgent as he tells Anastasia that Leo has been locked away in the Tower of Nilium. Her heart drops. She immediately protests, insisting Leo has done nothing wrong. But before she can argue further, Aquila and Sir Altar step in, their presence particularly radiating guilt. Anastasia's anger boils over. She calls out Sir Altar, accusing him of framing Leo when the truth is he's suffering from magic overload. Altar waves it off, hiding behind the excuse that there's no proof. The smugness in the room is unbearable. Honestly, the nerve! Do they think we can't see through this act? Her gaze shifts to Aquila, disbelief turning into fury. She has never imagined Aquila capable of such schemes. Taking a deep breath, Anastasia declares that someone has been using Leo as a pawn to kill her. The king stiffens at her words, demanding to know who would dare. Aquila, feigning reason, argues back and twists the truth. But Anastasia presses on, defending both Sir Parshell and Leo. Unfortunately, the king brushes her aside, telling her to rest. The priestesses lead her away, leaving her in a quiet anguish. Alone, she calls out to Sir Parshell, her voice breaking. His voice comes out weak. Sir Parshell stirs, eyes heavy, and tells her through tears that everything he's done was to protect her. Anastasia's voice trembles as she shouts at Sir Parshell, desperate for him to stay awake. He manages a weak smile, telling her that he promised to protect her no matter what. He doesn't want to see her cry. But before he can finish, his voice falters. His body grows limp and he slips back into a deep, helpless slumber. Panic grips her as the three priestesses rush in, quickly checking his condition. But Anastasia's mind is already racing. She needs to save him, and she can't do it alone. Gathering herself, she tells him that Leo is innocent, that the real culprits are Aquila and Sir Altar. Rosa starts to speak, but Anastasia cuts in with determined eyes. These women have known her all her life, and they believe her without hesitation. With their help in the blink of an eye, Anastasia teleports straight to the Tower of Nilium. Leo stares at her in shock, about to scold her for her recklessness, but she stops him. This isn't about their argument, it's about saving Parshell. She pleads for his help, promising that once this is over, she'll make sure he's free. Then she's gone again, appearing before Ishmael, who freezes in surprise. Her voice is firm, making a deal with the High Priest. But to save Parshell's life, Anastasia reveals they must free Kalisa. Ishmael freezes, thinking he misheard, but Anastasia's tone is cold and unwavering. She knows exactly what he and the king have been plotting. She demands they abandon their plan to turn Kalisa into a vassal state, warning him that the only person who holds the knowledge to save Sir Parshell is Kalisa's king. Her words hang heavy in the air. Ishmael's brow furrows. He knows she's treading dangerous ground. If she makes such a deal with an enemy nation, rumors will explode across the kingdom, painting her as reckless and disloyal. But Anastasia meets his worries head-on. This isn't about politics. It's about saving a life. She tells him they must work together no matter the risks. Meanwhile, chaos brews elsewhere. Reagan and Ark are cornered by palace guards, dragged away under suspicion. Sir Altar is just about to interrogate them when a messenger urgently summons him to the royal court. The moment he steps inside, the atmosphere is tense. Nobles, senators, and royal advisors all sit in anticipation. Then the king delivers the shocking decree. The contract binding Kalisa is officially nullified. In one swift stroke, Leo is free. Gasps ripple through the chamber. Whispers ignite like wildfire. Sir Altar's face twists in disbelief, but the king's voice cuts through the noise. This was the only way to save Sir Parshell from certain doom. When Sir Altar tries to twist the blame toward the young prince, the king shuts him down completely, seeing straight through the lie. After all, someone as young as Leo couldn't possibly cast such a curse. Oh, the sweet taste of justice. Aquila and Altar just got outplayed. The king's sharp gaze sweeps across the court, his voice heavy with suspicion. Could there be a traitor among them? He vows to uncover the truth once Sir Parshell's condition stabilizes. The announcement leaves the nobles and senators murmuring in unease. Meanwhile, Aquila and Sir Altar stand frozen, replaying every step of their failed scheme, baffled at how it crumbled again. Night falls, yet the palace does not sleep. Everyone, including the king himself, racks their minds for a way to save Sir Parshell. The king even summons Dean Loctania, convinced his skills might break the curse. But unexpectedly, Anastasia confidently steps forward, volunteering to break it herself. Sierra and the Dean immediately protest, urging her to reconsider, but she stands her ground. After a moment's pause, the king agrees. One by one, they leave the room, anticipation heavy in the air. Many believe now more than ever that naming Anastasia as heir was the right choice. But in the king's mind, unease lingers. He knows Aquila and Sir Arthur have been plotting and fears they will strike again. Still, he hesitates to punish his own child. The high priest's warning is grim. If the king spares Aquila now, Anastasia's life may be in danger. Dawn breaks. In Sir Parcel's chamber, Anastasia kneels, panting heavily as the final traces of the curse unravel. Outside, the three priestesses wait anxiously. Worried, they burst in, only to find Sir Parcel slumbering with ease and Anastasia collapsed in peaceful slumber beside him. Finally, Sir Parcel is safe! My heart can rest. Days pass. Anastasia slowly stirs from her long rest, only to be met with bittersweet news. Leo's departure is drawing near. The weight of it hits her hard. She hadn't realized it would be so soon. She wonders if she might see him before he leaves, when suddenly a swirl of magic opens before her. Leo steps through. Before she can say a word, he closes the distance, pulling her into a desperate embrace. His voice is low and urgent. He wants her to escape with him. Wait, what? Leo, you can't just drop something like that! Anastasia freezes, stunned by Leo's sudden plea. In her chamber, she listens as he insists on taking her with him, warning her that her life is in danger. She smiles faintly at the news of his departure to Kalisa, but her calm response only fuels his frustration. He can't understand why she's so willing to stay. When she hears his plan, she almost wavers, but steadies herself, firmly refusing. She tells him her duty as the future heir comes first. Leo's voice rises in anger, but as he storms towards the door, Anastasia calls after him. She takes a step, then stumbles. Leo lunges to catch her, but in the chaos they both topple over, their lips meeting in an unexpected kiss. It's like time stopped for them both. The whole thing leaves their cheeks burning, but without a word, Leo pulls away and leaves. A few days later, Leo departs for Kalisa. Anastasia, however, still remains rattled by the memory of their kiss. The three priestesses whisper among themselves, assuming her mood is from his absence. That night, she asks to see Sir Parcel before bed. He still lies in deep slumber, but the high priest assures her he will recover. Sitting by his side, Anastasia gently places the necklace she's kept since childhood in his hand. In the depths of his slumber, Sir Parcel is trapped in a nightmarish battlefield. His comrades fight desperately at his side, but a chilling cry cuts through the chaos. The princess is dead. His head throbs violently as the scene shifts, revealing Anastasia bound and burning before the jeering crowd of Santra. He must be in anguish stuck in that nightmare. Overcome with rage, he cuts down those responsible, pushing through the flames to reach her. The moment her charred body collapses into his arms, the nightmare shatters. Sir Parcel jolts awake. In his hand rests Anastasia's pendant, warm as if recently worn. Wrapped around it is a folded note, and within, a faintly glowing magic stone. Confusion grips him, but before the thought can form, the sound of hurried footsteps fills the air. The door bursts open, and Reagan rushes in, his expression stricken. Anastasia has vanished. Far from the palace, the steady sway of the sea carries a lone ship forward. Hidden in the lower deck, Anastasia stands beside Cirrus. She has no intention of being gone long, but the journey ahead promises to change everything. Cirrus stands frozen. The thought of Anastasia leaving the country had gnawed at him for days, yet hearing it's only temporary brings a rush of relief. Still, curiosity stirs. Something must have changed her mind. When she reveals the reason, he feels as though the air has been knocked from his chest. The princess had fallen in love. For Anastasia, this feeling has lingered quietly for so long, a warmth she can no longer ignore. She cannot abandon the people who have shown her kindness in this life. The thought of leaving them forever would be unbearable. She assures Cirrus that what she feels is not weakness, but affection worth protecting. Yet Cirrus cannot help but ask, if her departure is only temporary, why keep it a secret? Apparently, she wishes to grow stronger, to master her powers, and to carve a name for herself in the business world. With the king's failure to act against Aquila and Alter, she sees no other choice. Power gained in secret may be her only weapon. Across the sea, no one will suspect her, and it will be a long while before anyone can track her down. Back in Port Salamis, chaos brews. The palace scours every street, every dock, desperate for any trace of her. The note tucked inside the locket weighs heavily on Sir Parcel's mind. Day after day, they search without rest, but no clues surface. At last, exhaustion claims him and Sir Parshell collapses. In restless slumber, Sir Parshell hears Anastasia's voice, faint but urgent, calling for him to find her. The sound is pulled away into sudden darkness, jolting him awake. Lingering fragments of his dreams stir old memories. His gaze falls on the locket, and with a slow, deliberate motion, he opens it. Curious, yet bracing himself for what it might reveal. Inside, a vision surfaces. The day he left Beatrice. They had been meeting in secret, bound by plans to escape the country together. But fate was unkind. War erupted just as Beatrice made her move. In the chaos, they were torn apart. That very day, she lost her life. It was only after the war that Parshell learned of Anastasia's existence, a truth that had kept him searching. Though despair once whispered to him to give up, he rejects it now. Rising to his feet, he dashes toward the port, holding firm the belief that Anastasia is still out there, alive, waiting. That's the spirit! I just know he's determined to find her! The following day, far from these desperate shores, Leo makes his return to Kalisa. Before Anastasia's disappearance, Reagan had already taken note of Leo's strange demeanor. There was a heaviness in his face, as though something weighed deeply on his mind. Ark dismisses it without concern, but Reagan is convinced it had to do with leaving Anastasia behind. He had known for some time that Leo had fallen in love with her. Ark found it ridiculous, but Reagan side-eyes him, knowing Ark has feelings for someone else despite being engaged. Ark quickly brushes it off, accusing Reagan of being overly dramatic. Their journey eventually brings them to the border, where father and son are reunited at last. The embrace is heavy with emotion, as if trying to make up for lost time. Memories stir as Leo takes his final steps, leaving Santra's border behind. Meanwhile, in Eldina, Cirrus and Anastasia take on new identities. Anastasia brims with excitement at the thought of exploring the unfamiliar streets. As they wander and wait for Cirrus's sister to arrive, a person rushes towards them. The figure tackles Cirrus to the ground before halting in surprise at the sight of Anastasia. The exchange erupts in a foreign tongue that leaves Anastasia struggling to follow, her mind reeling from the speed of it. The newcomer, Emmett, Cirrus's sister, is instantly charmed by Anastasia's gentle demeanor. With an easy smile, she pledges to assist her in whatever she needs from that day forward. Together, they continue through the bustling streets, with Anastasia quietly taking in the sights. The city stretched out in every direction, vibrant and alive, unlike anything she had ever imagined. In Kalisa, as Leo and his father make their way to the palace, his father senses his unrest, remarking that action should have been taken long ago, raising Leo's fear that war might be on the horizon. Before he could press further, Leo was stunned to learn the truth. Beatrice had not been slain by his father, but was found cursed, though Santra had wrongfully placed the blame on him. A year later in Santra, Anastasia's birthday is celebrated despite her mysterious disappearance. While many are convinced she was safe, concern shifts towards Sir Parshell's sudden absence, suggesting he's still out there searching for her. Meanwhile, in Eldina, Cirrus, Emmett, and Anastasia sit across from a merchant, the very woman who once sold Anastasia the life-saving flower. Anastasia's small business, the Parkula Trading Company, had grown into a quiet success, catching the merchant's interest in meeting its elusive founder. But the merchant's discerning eyes linger, seeming to recognize the face behind the disguise.
We'll stop here for today, guys. Yes, I know you want more. Don't forget to ask for the next part in the comments section. Thank you guys for watching and for your support. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Till the next one.